Warrior Lore. Chapter 2463. Father. The little Qilin squinted its big eyes and rubbed itself against Du Xiaofu's face. It spoke in the human language in a crisp little boy's voice. Du Xiaofu was dumbfounded. Looking at the incomparably affectionate little Qilin in his arms, he did not know whether to hug it or let it go. I'm your father? You. Did you recognize the wrong person? Du Xiaofu asked cautiously. Father, you don't recognize me? I've been in your head for a long time. The little Qilin raised its little head and raised one of its front hooves to pat Du Xiaofu's head. It blinked its big eyes and said. After this reminder, Du Xiaofu finally thought of something and said in surprise, You are that stone? Hearing this, the little Qilin once again revealed a Qilin-style smile, indicating that the answer was correct. Du Xiaofu could not help but be shocked. Back in the Tianhuang mainland, the desolate sky leopard had obtained a round yellow stone. After studying it for a long time, it did not discover anything extraordinary. However, when it accidentally touched it, that stone drilled into its Niwen palace like lightning. Later, after having a good time with Ouyang Shuang, that stone ran into the tomboy's stomach. According to Ouyang Shuang herself, that stone in her stomach also brought her endless benefits, causing her strength to increase rapidly. However, other than that, it did not discover anything special. After coming to the desolate, ancient, fearsome ground, Ouyang Shuang could always feel the stone in her stomach moving from time to time. When the two of them separated in the blood fog space, Ouyang Shuang was sucked away by a bright light and disappeared without a trace. So, you were born from that tomboy? Du Xiaofu said. He could already confirm that this little Qilin was transformed from the stone in Ouyang Shuang's stomach. Father, my mother is not a tomboy. The little Qilin retorted. This, Du Xiaofu was instantly embarrassed. Who would call a baby's mother a tomboy in front of its face? At this time, Du Tingxian, little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Jin Qingchun, and the rest of the people from the desolate country had already gathered around. They were all speechless. This little Qilin is your biological child? Du Xiaoyao was no longer in the sorry state from before, and his eyes were suffused with a blazing golden light as he looked at the little Qilin, then looked at Du Xiaofu as he asked. Du Xiaofu did not know how to answer. Both he and the tomboy were humans. Logically speaking, their child should be a human as well. But then again, this little Qilin did indeed go from his body to Ouyang Shuang's stomach. If that was the case, after struggling for a while, Du Xiaofu finally nodded and said, You can say that. He was very happy. The yellow stone had been in the tomboy's stomach for such a long time, and the two of them were very puzzled. It turned out that she was pregnant with a little Qilin. With the Qilin's powerful primordial bloodline, it was normal for it to take a long time to be pregnant. Everything made sense now. Since the little Qilin was indeed born from him and Ouyang Shuang, it was not an exaggeration to say that it was his child. However, when Du Xiaofu said that, the living creatures around him suddenly burst into an uproar. The Rock Emperor is the little Qilin's father? What the hell is going on? In order to get the little Qilin, so many strong people fought and fought over it. As soon as Du Xiaofu appeared, he immediately became the little Qilin's father. How the hell were they going to snatch it? The people from the desolate country ignored these people's thoughts. They were all overjoyed. Suddenly, there was another family member who was so lovable. There was no reason for them not to be happy. So it was born from Ouyang Shuang. Come, let Grandpa carry you. Du Tingxuan's smile was brilliant as he took the little Qilin from Du Xiaofu's arms and hugged it. Little guy, I'm your sister. I'm your brother. Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoba also excitedly moved their little heads forward and stroked the little Qilin. Grandpa, sister, brother. The little Qilin was not shy at all. It called out sweetly and spoke in a childish voice. Damn, is the little Qilin really the Rock Emperor's biological son? That's right. It seems to be born from that woman called Ouyang Shuang. The Rock Emperor is so mighty. He even gave birth to a little Qilin. Why do I still feel a little confused? I need some peace and quiet. Come, let me tell you. This is Uncle Xiaoyao. That is Aunt Xiaojing, Aunt Xiaoqing, Uncle Little Tiger, Uncle Yi Piaoling, Uncle Qianguyu, Little Xingxing pulled the little Qilin and circled around the people of Huang country. He introduced them one by one, not leaving a single one out. Look, that's Qingqing's mother. That's Mu Han's mother. Little Xingxing then pointed at Fang Jijia and Mo family and introduced Dongli Qingqing, Sumu Xin, Qi Yishi, Easy Jin, Sima Muhan, and the others. In the end, he did not even let go of the golden-winged rock race. The little Qilin also obediently greeted everyone. The old lady Jialo Maluo's face was full of joy. She was relieved. I have another great-grandson. In the crowd, Dongli Qingqing looked at the little Qilin who was surrounded by everyone. After secretly glancing at Sumu Xin, she unconsciously touched her stomach. A trace of helplessness flashed across her face. She secretly sided herself for not being able to live up to expectations. Little Xingxing, stop fooling around. Du Xiaofu recovered from the excitement of being a father. He hurried forward and pulled little Xingxing back. If she continued to introduce, who knew how long it would take? Little guy, where's your mother? Du Xiaofu asked the little Qilin. Now that he thought about it, Ouyang Shuang's disappearance should be related to the little Qilin. Before this secret place opened, Du Xiaofu did not see the tomboy's figure. He was worried that something might have happened to her. At this moment, the little Qilin was jumping around happily, so Ouyang Shuang should be nearby. My mother is still there. The little Qilin raised its head, indicating for everyone to look at the boundless thunder sun above their heads. Du Xiaofu understood that the little Qilin was able to be born because of the influence of this place, and Ouyang Shuang still had not appeared. She should have obtained some benefits and was at a critical moment. Therefore, Du Xiaofu did not have the intention to disturb her. Little guy, come, tell Grandpa your name. Du Tingxian chuckled and hugged the little Qilin in his arms, doting on it dearly. My mother hasn't given me a name yet. Grandpa, you can give me one. The little Qilin's big eyes flickered and said to Du Tingxian. Du Tingxian looked at Du Xiaofu. Xiaofu, you, as the father, should be the one to come up with a name. Du Xiaofu pondered for a moment and said, since it's a little Qilin left behind from ancient times, then it's called Du Xiaolin. As soon as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, he heard a cold voice above his head, with a strong sense of dissatisfaction. Du Xiaofu, can you be more careful when you come up with a name? Chapter 2464. Everyone looked up and saw an invisible wave spreading from the thunder sun. Thunder rolled gently, as if layers of clouds were rolling, surging in all directions. With a rumbling sound, a slender and exquisite figure walked out from within. Tomboy. Du Xiaofu looked at the familiar figure. It was Ouyang Shuang. Upon closer inspection, Du Xiaofu was surprised to find that her strength had improved greatly. She had reached the late-stage sage realm. One could imagine how much benefit Ouyang Shuang had gained there. Let me ask you, can't you be a little more careful when you give me a name? Ouyang Shuang walked out from the thunder sun. Her delicate body was hot, and she was surrounded by faint lightning. Her clothes fluttered in the wind, making her look like a fairy. Mother! Little Qilin saw Ouyang Shuang and jumped into her arms happily. It rubbed her face affectionately, making Ouyang Shuang feel gratified. How am I not careful? Du Xiaofu asked. Du Xiaoqing, little tiger, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaohuang, little star, and now Du Xiaolin. You're fooling me. Ouyang Shuang frowned and said indignantly. Du Xiaofu couldn't refute. He glanced at Qi Yeshi, who was standing not far away, and tried to divert the trouble. I didn't give little star the name. Qi Yeshi was stunned. Then, black lines appeared on her forehead. I can't be bothered to argue with you. Ouyang Shuang ignored Du Xiaofu and hugged little Qilin. Her delicate face was suffused with the radiance of motherly love. At this moment, a weak voice suddenly sounded. Actually, I think that the name that Master gave me is pretty good. Lei Tianhuang said leisurely with an honest smile on his face. Du Xiaofu's old face was so black that it was about to drip water. Why did he have to touch a sore spot? It was fine if Lei Tianhuang didn't say anything. Once he opened his mouth, it immediately became a stab. Sure enough, Ouyang Shuang didn't want to argue with him anymore. After hearing Lei Tianhuang's words, she glared at Du Xiaofu again. When the nearby Zhen Qingchun saw Du Xiaofu suffer a setback, Not only did he not come forward to dissuade Du Xiaofu, he instead beamed with joy as he watched the show with a chuckle. Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaofu. Do win, do, is, do. Calm. Seeing this, Ouyang Shuang's expression also eased up. After giving Du Xiaofu an indifferent glance, she carried the little Qilin in her arms as a blush of happiness crept onto her face. Young master. Congratulations, Grand Witch. Congratulations, Rock Emperor. The Golden-Winged Great Rocks, the Confucian School, the Mahis School, and the Phoenix race all came forward to congratulate Du Xiaofu and his family. Some of the surrounding living beings were speechless as they looked at the happy and joyful scene of this big family. There were also some who were envious. As for the Dark Heavenly Tiger clan, the Howling Moon Lion clan, and the other beasts who had a good relationship with Du Xiaofu, they also felt a little relieved. No matter what, it was better for their supreme Qilin to become this young man's son than to fall into the hands of those with ulterior motives. In addition, Legalism, Famed Clan, Distant Sky Flame Phoenix clan's old ancestor, and the others' eyes were filled with hatred and killing intent. What? Is there anyone else who wants to snatch my nephew or compete with my desolate country? Feel free to try. I'll entertain you any time. Sensing those malicious gazes, Du Xiaoyao immediately took a step forward. His golden robe fluttered and 2 rays of golden light shot out from his eyes. He looked around with an awe-inspiring aura. He had been trapped in this space and had been struck by lightning for more than half a month. He had only just been rescued by Du Xiaofu. He was extremely sullen and had nowhere to vent his anger. Humph. The Dragon Wilderness clan's old ancestor snorted coldly and did not say another word. The rest of the people who had attacked earlier were also silent. The old monsters present were all sensible people. With the desolate country's powerful lineup, a bunch of stragglers with ulterior motives would not be enough to snatch the baby Qilin from them. Moreover, there was still a group of powerful beasts eyeing covetously from the side. Could this baby Qilin be the biggest secret buried here? The dust of the storm caused by the baby Qilin had settled, and the living beings began to have new questions. The rumors in the world could not be groundless. However, the birth of a baby Qilin from the primordial age was indeed shocking enough. I'm afraid it's far more than that. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and looked at the lightning sun that was fluctuating with resplendent light above his head. He knew very well that the Qilin egg before the baby Qilin was born came from the outside world. However, it was far-fetched to say that it was the world's biggest secret. Moreover, this place was known as the Heaven Burial Dead Ground. According to the ancient legends, a part of the world was once buried here. It should not be so simple. Look, what's happening over there? A living being suddenly exclaimed. His voice trembled with fear, as if he had seen something terrifying. As his voice faded, countless people's gazes turned to the thunderous sun in the sky. They saw that a hole seemed to have been pierced through in the sun that had originally converged into a ball. A lightning bolt that was like a large river poured down from the hole. However, this was not the end. After this bolt of lightning appeared, countless gaps appeared on the lightning sun. Subsequently, countless bolts of lightning surged out. They were like waterfalls as they descended from the sky. Oh no, we can't resist the power of the lightning. Retreat quickly. An expert of the sage, accomplished realm was horrified to discover that this lightning bolt seemed gentle and harmless. However, it was incomparably dreadful. The space ruptured in a silent manner wherever it passed, and a pitch-black space crack appeared in the space and spread from top to bottom. Even with his cultivation, he felt his scalp go numb just by looking at it. If he really got hit by it, he did not know what kind of terrifying changes it would cause. The experts of the various clans also noticed the sudden change. Without saying a word, they waved their sleeves and carried their clansmen away quickly. They wanted to leave the area covered by the sun. The great sun was bright and boundless. Thunder and lightning cascaded down from the sky. It was soundless and magnificent. However, at this moment, no one was in the mood to appreciate this beauty. People of the barren country, retreat quickly. Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless and ordered the people of the barren country. The sun was bright and boundless. Lightning fell from the sky. If they forced themselves to stay here, no one would be able to leave. All of them would die here. Xiaofu, what are you trying to do? The child of the sacred array, Xin Qingchun, saw that Du Xiaofu did not seem to have any intention of leaving and asked worriedly, "Don't worry, I'll be fine. I don't feel any danger." Du Xiaofu gave him a relaxed smile. Chapter 2465. Above the sun, the long river of lightning was as thick as a mountain, hanging down from the sky like a river of stars. In the eyes of a true powerhouse, this silent and seemingly ordinary lightning carried a terrifying aura of destruction. Wherever it passed, the space seemed to be corroded, leaving behind pitch-black spatial cracks. Even if one was in the sage perfection realm, once touched, their life would be in danger. Du Xiaofu did not intend to leave. At this time, he felt as if the blood in his body had been ignited by a raging fire, boiling incessantly. When he first arrived here, the feeling of his heart throbbing appeared again, and it was 1,000 times more intense. The only difference was that when the huge tomb was formed, the heartache and sadness that came from the depths of his blood was missing. "I will also stay. I feel that the call is getting stronger and stronger." Du Tingxian stood beside Du Xiaofu and said with a solemn face, "This place must have some kind of close relationship with my Du family. I also don't feel threatened." Du Xiaojing also said. Du Xiaofu was not surprised. He just nodded and looked at the dignified Du Xiaoba. "Uncle Xiaofu, I also feel the same." Du Xiaoba's little face was solemn. Du Xiaofu nodded. This situation was also within his expectations. Everything here must be related to the bloodline of the Du family. They all had a feeling that even if the lightning bombarded their bodies, it would not cause any harm to them. Du Xiaofu wanted to know what the biggest secret buried in this world was, and what kind of relationship it had with his Du family. "Father, I also want to stay." The little Qilin suddenly broke free from Ouyang Shuang's arms, jumped up, and came to Du Xiaofu's side. Ouyang Shuang did not stop it. Strictly speaking, the little Qilin was also the bloodline of the Du family. "You must be careful." Ouyang Shuang's pretty face was tense as she warned Du Xiaofu seriously. "They'll be fine if they stay here. Let's go." Huolei Laozu glanced at Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, and the others with a burning gaze. Then, he grabbed Ouyang Shuang and left first. Seeing that the lightning waterfall was about to descend, Zheng Qingchun did not waste any time. He led Yi Piaoling, Qian Guyu, Little Xingxing, and the rest of the Huang country's people away. He had long known that Master Fire Thunder had an extraordinary origin. He should know the situation here very well. However, for some reason, he had never told anyone. Zheng Qingchun believed that if Fire Lightning said that Du Xiaofu and the others would be fine, then they would be fine. Perhaps this place really did have some kind of close connection with the Du family, or perhaps it was an opportunity. After seeing the group off into the distance and almost disappearing, the remaining 5 heaved a sigh of relief and turned to look at the lightning sun above their heads. At this moment, Du Xiaofu and the others suddenly realized that other than their own family, there was a figure standing in the void not far away and had not left. It was a strange figure in a purple robe. His face was covered by the robe, and only a pair of frightening deep eyes could be seen. Lingzi. Du Tingxuan's eyes narrowed. That strange figure had interacted with the Du family and the Huang country many times. It was Lingzi of the devil religion. "I really want to know who he is and what kind of relationship does he have with the Du family," Du Xiaofu said in a gloomy voice. At this time, other than the Du family, all the creatures knew that this place was extremely dangerous and had retreated, including the 9 great devil emperors of the devil religion, Moksha, Jialo Juliao, and the others. Only Lingzi was still there. Moreover, this person had the lightning martial vein. If someone said that he had nothing to do with the Du family, Du Xiaofu would definitely not believe it. As if he felt Du Tingxuan's gaze, Lingzi also turned his head and looked over, his eyes flickering with a faint light. "Looks like we need to deal with him first and take off that robe to see his true face." The Thunder Dragon spear instantly appeared in Du Tingxuan's hand, surrounded by lightning and surging murderous aura. "You can't kill me." Not far away, Lingzi spoke with a calm and indifferent voice. Is that so? Without the protection of the Devil Emperor, let's see how you escape today. Du Xiaofu's aura suddenly skyrocketed. Flapping his golden wings, the purple-gold heavenly fault swept out from between his eyebrows and was held in his hand. The tip of his tongue emitted spring thunder as he shouted, sword splitting 10,000 miles. Chi La, the sword light swept out, and with the fluctuation of profound talisman runes, it instantly arrived before Emo Lingzi. Du Xiaofu's sword slashed down, and this suppressed space fluctuated with monstrous ripples. Above everyone, the lightning bolts that flew straight down were affected. Many of the bolts distorted and entangled together, quickly condensing into a vast lightning waterfall. It was like the head of a tide, rushing and whistling. I said, "You can't kill me." Emo Lingzi's demonic aura surged as his figure unfolded. He didn't take Du Xiaofu's aggressive sword head-on. Instead, he executed his movement technique and directly turned around, charging towards the lightning waterfall that was unknown thousands of miles thick. "People of the devil religion shall be killed," Du Xiaofu pursued, and the purple-gold heavenly fault burst out with light as it slashed out again. "Kill." At the same time, Du Tingxian also made his move. The Thunder Dragon spear pierced out as if it wanted to pierce through the void and attack Emo Lingzi. Three figures flew towards the lightning waterfall that filled the sky together. Just as Du Xiaofu and Du Tingxian joined forces to pursue Emo Lingzi, the countless creatures that were rapidly retreating had encountered a huge problem. Heavens, how can we get out? Some people were horrified to discover that at first, they only had to pass through the huge tomb formed by the fusion of countless mountain peaks to arrive here. But now, they couldn't find the way out at all. This cold and dark space was boundless. Apart from the lightning sun above their heads, there was nothing else. No matter how they flew, they were still in this space and couldn't escape the coverage of the sun. It was as if there was no end to it. Most importantly, this space was suppressed, and it was impossible to tear through space. However, at this moment, countless lightning waterfalls fell like silver ribbons that instantly flew thousands of miles, emitting light that wasn't dazzling. The long river of lightning flowed down like a group of comets streaking across the sky. It was incomparably swift as it descended at an extreme speed. It did not make any noise, but no one dared to underestimate it in the slightest. All the creatures' strength was above the Saint Realm, and their speed couldn't be said to be slow. However, those lightning waterfalls were even faster. Some of the slower creatures were about to be caught by the lightning waterfalls and couldn't dodge at all. "Save me." A huge green snake with a body like a mountain range fell behind and was swept by the waterfall as it fled. Ah, the huge snake only had time to let out half a scream before it was swallowed by the pitch-black space crack and disappeared without a trace. This kind of silent killing was the most terrifying. Chapter 2466. Run. Countless creatures were terrified. Those who didn't have the support of powerful experts and weren't proficient in speed could only fall behind, barely avoiding the silent attacks of the lightning bolts. "I don't want to die. Ah, save me." Ah, as the lightning bolts chased after them, miserable shrieks began to rise one after another, causing the fleeing creatures to feel a bone-piercing chill that rushed from the soles of their feet to their heads. However, they had no other choice but to use their profound chi to fly and escape. In the lightning rain, Du Xiaojing, Du Xiaoba, and Du Xiaolan's bodies were completely covered by the lightning bolts. They didn't resist and allowed the lightning to wrap around them, with the spatial cracks that were corroded around them. But what was surprising was that the lightning that contained a terrifying aura of destruction to other creatures didn't cause any harm to them. To them, the glow of lightning that covered the sky was actually gentle and warm like water, and bathing within it even gave them a comfortable feeling of being carefree and relaxed. Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, and Emo Lingzi, who were chasing after them, also had the same feeling. Being in the lightning waterfall, their movements weren't hindered in the slightest. People of the devil religion can forget about touching what was left behind by my Du family's ancestor. Du Tingshuan's spear was like a dragon, whistling sharply as the tyrannical energy bolts swept out, stirring up wind and lightning as they struck towards Emo Lingzi. At this moment, it was already certain that this secret place was related to the Du family's ancestor. This Emolingzi had lightning martial veins, and it was very likely that the Du family's bloodline flowed in his veins. However, the devil religion was a disaster to the world and was the enemy of all living beings. The desolate country had long been in an irreconcilable situation with them, and there was no room for negotiation. Regardless of whether there was a huge opportunity hidden here or some shocking secret buried here, the people of the devil religion couldn't be allowed to obtain it. Kill! Du Xiaofu roared and slashed out with the purple-gold heavenly tower. The sword light condensed into substance and broke through the lightning bolts with an imposing manner. Facing the two's joint attack, Emolingzi simply didn't face it head-on and only dodged with all his might. Even so, he still couldn't completely dodge their attacks. The purple robes at his waist were cut open by the purple-gold heavenly false sword radiance, and dark red blood flowed out. "I'm not playing with you anymore." Emolingzi coldly snorted, and devil chi surged around his wound. With a sizzling sound, it quickly recovered. As if unwilling to be entangled with Du Xiaofu and Du Tingxian, Emolingzi raised his head, and his deep eyes that were covered by his hood flickered with a dim light. "Thunder, martial vein, arise!" Emolingzi's deep voice resounded as devil chi surged around him, covering his body. Rumble. At the same time, the blood in Emolingzi's body rumbled like a surging river. The roaring of the waves shook one's soul. The thunderbolts that filled the sky seemed to have received the support of some kind of mysterious force. They were no longer silent and began to rumble and buzz. Swish! At the same time as all these changes happened, Du Xiaofu's sword radiance had already struck out. The purple-gold heavenly false aura was shocking. With a slash, it was like a large ship sailing swiftly, riding the wind and breaking the waves. The thunderbolts frantically swept out and separated to the two sides, opening up a 300-meter-wide path. "You can't do anything to me." Emolingzi's dark eyes looked at the tyrannical attack that was about to hit him, and he still spoke calmly. Before his voice fell, the purple-gold heavenly false sword radiance had already arrived in front of him. This time, Emolingzi actually didn't dodge and just watched quietly, as if he had some method that didn't fear this kind of attack at all. Boom, boom, boom. In an infinitely distant place, the still dark void was suddenly torn apart by streaks of bright lightning. Lightning flashed in all directions, interweaving into a huge net that surrounded this space. At this moment, Emolingzi's entire body gave birth to an indescribable aura for no reason. This kind of aura was like being possessed by a celestial being, like a god descending to the world, high and mighty, making all living things bow their heads. "Thunder, martial vein, descend!" Emolingzi bellowed again as his aura burst forth, and countless lightning bolts crazily struck down. In an infinitely distant place, the huge net interwoven with lightning began to flicker, as if heaven and earth were rotating and the stars were moving. The huge net of lightning fell down and landed around Emolingzi. Lightning spread out and condensed into a huge lightning cocoon, wrapping him inside. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's sword radiance finally slashed down. However, after coming in contact with the layer of light cocoon around Emolingzi, it only emitted a series of buzzing sounds before completely dissipating. It was simply impossible to cut it open. Subsequently, Du Tingxian also struck with his spear, but the effect was exactly the same as Du Xiaofu's sword. It was simply unable to cause any harm to Emolingzi. Unable to do anything to Emolingzi, Du Xiaofu and his son stopped at the same time, no longer doing anything useless. "Thunder, martial vein. He's triggered the thunder martial vein," Du Tingxian said in a deep voice as he looked at the huge net of lightning that covered all directions, as well as the lightning cocoon that wrapped Emolingzi. Earlier, when this huge tomb was just formed, the thunder martial veins of everyone present unconsciously broke out of their bodies and lingered above the tomb. When they entered this space, the thunder martial vein that flew away didn't have any movements, but there was still some weak reaction. At this moment, under Emolingzi's all-out triggering, such a shocking change actually occurred. That's a great opportunity. A great opportunity related to the thunder martial vein. Du Xiaofu could feel that Imo Lingzi's aura within the light cocoon actually had a terrifying increase in a short period of time. Du Xiaofu no longer dared to hesitate as he roared to the remaining people, Xiaojing, Xiaoba, quick, trigger the thunder martial vein with all your might. Hearing this, Du Xiaojing, Du Xiaoba, and Du Tingxian all moved with all their might, urging their profound qi to sense the thunder martial vein's location. Thunder martial vein. Open for me. Du Xiaofu himself also didn't delay any longer. Golden light surged out from his body as the blood in his body burned and boiled. The scarlet demonic monkey's origin spirit roared as it followed a trace of faint feeling from the depths of his bloodline and finally touched the thunder martial vein that belonged to him. Chi 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 chi, under the all-out triggering of the 4 people of the Du family. At the end of the boundless space, countless streaks of lightning tore through the darkness and interweaved into a huge lightning net that appeared in the void. Subsequently, similar to Imo Lingzi's transformation, the huge lightning net fell and covered the 4 people, condensing into 4 huge light cocoons. In the end, only the little Qilin was left. It blinked its watery big eyes and looked at everything curiously. When Imo Lingzi was just trying to trigger the thunder martial vein, countless creatures on the other side were still fleeing with all their might. Run. Heavens, where can we run to? Many creatures were horrified. The lightning bolts behind them were getting faster and denser, and many creatures had already been silently devoured. Some people tried to tear the space apart, but they still couldn't do it. If they couldn't find a way out, only death would await them. Many creatures were on the verge of despair. Chapter 2467. Everyone in the desolate country's lineup was extremely nervous. Fortunately, they had the help of the golden-winged great rocks. The relatively weaker Yi Piaoling, Qingguyu, Yiluhan, Dugu Finshan, Sumushin, as well as those from the school of medicine, Taoism, Moism, and Confucianism were all placed on the back of the golden-winged great rocks. The desolate ape, thundergoat, ground wolf, and others were all brought along, as well as some people from factions that were on good terms with the desolate country. The golden-winged great rocks were known for their speed. Their golden wings traversed the void, and with a light flap, they could travel thousands of miles in an instant, leaving many living beings far behind. Their lives were not in danger for the time being. If we can't find a way out, no one will be able to leave if this continues. The golden-winged great rocks soared through the sky. Jialo Batian looked at the boundless dark space, his eyes shining with golden light as he spoke in a deep voice. Little demon uncle, quickly think of a way. Little Star urged the golden-robed youth beside him, the mark between his eyebrows flashing with a strange light. I've tried, but I can't find a way out either. Du Xiaoyao was helpless. This strange place had given him the cold shoulder, and it was a huge blow to him. When everyone heard this, they all turned solemn. If even Du Xiaoyao's ability could not solve it, then the chances of the others escaping with their lives were too slim. At this moment, in front of everyone, the sky was suddenly torn apart by a flash of light, and a giant net made of intertwined lightning flashed. Tiske. Soon, after this giant net appeared, another series of flashes of lightning flashed, and the giant net became even more solid, hanging in front of everyone. Damn, it can't be. Du Xiaoyao screamed when he saw this. Stop. Jialo Batian saw this and immediately ordered the golden-winged great rocks. Everyone quickly stopped, not daring to move forward. It's over. It's over. There are obstacles in front and pursuers behind. We're dead meat. When the other living beings saw this scene, they were scared out of their wits. With the giant net of lightning hanging in front of them and the pursuit of lightning behind them, almost everyone felt despair. Du Xiaoyao suddenly exclaimed, as if he had discovered something. He then laughed and said, "Haha, I know it. This space is like a huge egg, and those crisscrossing lightning bolts are the cracks on the eggshell. As long as we pass through the cracks, we'll be able to get out." Du Xiaoyao laughed and was the first rocks, great rocks, great rocks. Is it really that simple? The others were skeptical, but they didn't have a better choice, so they followed one after another. Under the great thunder sun, streams of light broke through the bindings and hung down. They gradually converged below and condensed into one. Great rocks, great rocks, great spring, and in great rocks, great spring splashed and earth, and splashed, filled ed great spring. Space within the fluctuations of the lightning. There were 5 huge light cocoons bathed in it, emitting a mysterious aura. They were formed by Du Xiaofu's family of 4 and the devil religion's Emolingzi. Du Xiaolin blinked his sparkling big eyes and darted around. Sometimes, he would look at the lightning cocoon that Du Tingxian had turned into, and sometimes, he would climb onto Du Xiaofu's head to take a look. After an unknown amount of time, the great thunderous great sun finally dimmed and turned into a boundless sea of lightning, filling every corner of this space. The dense lightning was gentle and harmless, and it was suffused with gorgeous ripples. After the great thunder sun disappeared, several multicolored streams of light shot out from the distance. They looked like fireworks with long flaming tails, drifting in all directions in the sky. Du Xiaolin, who was bored to death, looked at the colorful streams of light as if he had seen something new. He rushed over excitedly and spat out lightning from his mouth as he happily chased after the flame tails. Walala! He seemed to be a little afraid of the little Qilin's chase and was having a lot of fun. The streams of light sped through the sea of lightning and finally converged together, rushing towards the lightning cocoon that Du Xiaofu had transformed into. Hoo! After coming into contact with the large cocoon that Du Xiaofu had transformed into, the streaks of light disappeared without a trace, as if they had never appeared in the first place. Du Xiaolin tilted his little head and looked at this scene in puzzlement, somewhat confused. They were actually snatched away by Dad. Du Xiaolin muttered. He had finally found a few fun things with great difficulty, but they all drilled into Du Xiaofu's body, which made the little guy a little unhappy. Du Xiaolin was fuming. His big eyes rolled around, and in the end, he seemed to have thought of something. The corners of his immature mouth curled up into a smile. He closed his big eyes and stood beside Du Xiaofu with his head held high. Walala! Du Xiaolin's entire body was filled with lightning, which contrasted with the entire sea of lightning. A majestic aura soared into the sky, and he actually summoned the thunder martial vein in his body. Not long after, countless bolts of lightning gathered towards Du Xiaolin. Amidst the resplendent light, they tightly wrapped around his young body, condensing into a small cocoon of light. However, the aura emitted from it was not the slightest bit weaker than the others. On the side, within the large cocoon of light, Du Xiaofu was in an exceptionally mysterious state. Wrapped in lightning, he could clearly feel that his body was being constantly tempered. His immortal profound body, which was already abnormal to the extreme, had actually become even more solid and solid. It was different from the feeling of tempering his body in the purple thunder profound cauldron. At this time, he did not feel any pain. Everything seemed so natural, as if the conditions were right. However, his physique was originally exceptionally strong, so the speed of strengthening gradually slowed down. In the end, it was difficult to improve anymore. At this time, in Du Xiaofu's perception, several familiar auras drilled into his body. These auras were the golden crow sky burning thunder, lunar sky thunder, earth shattering thunder, and several other spiritual thunders that he originally possessed. The moment several spiritual thunders entered his body, Du Xiaofu's heart inexplicably rose with a strange feeling that he had never felt before. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu felt that everything here was incomparably familiar to him. It was related to the spiritual thunders in his body. He even felt that if he could gather all the spiritual thunders, he could easily control all of this in his hands. But now, he could only follow the pulse emitted by the spiritual thunders to find some rules. Can I really control it? Du Xiaofu whispered softly in his heart. Without much hesitation, he used his primordial spirit to activate the several spiritual thunders. Chi. As Du Xiaofu tried, lightning could be seen breaking through the large cocoon and overflowing from it. At this moment, the large cocoon quickly melted like snow in boiling soup, revealing Du Xiaofu's original appearance. So that's how it is. Du Xiaofu carefully sensed everything here and was sure that he had found some kind of rule here. Then, his gaze swept across the other light cocoons. As for his alcoholic father and the others, Du Xiaofu only looked at them for a while and did not disturb them. Chapter 2468. Du Xiaofu had long discovered that his physical body had improved to an unimaginable level. It was much stronger than before. Even if he continued to stay in the light cocoon, it would be difficult for him to gain more. But for his drunkard father, sister Du Xiaojing, Du Xiaoba, and Du Xiaolin, their physical bodies still had a lot of room for improvement. The longer they stayed in the light cocoon, the more benefits they would gain. The great calamity was getting closer and closer. Once the demon god completely recovered, Du Xiaofu never dared to lower his guard. The stronger his loved ones were, the greater their chances of survival. So much so that they would have a chance to compete with the demon god. Looking at the small and cute light cocoon with its head held high, Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand and gently stroked it for a while. A smile unconsciously rose on his face. This little Qilin was indeed born from him and that tomboy. It was Du Xiaofu's flesh and blood. In the end, his gaze stopped on the light cocoon formed by Mo Lingzi. Two rays of light shot out from his eyes, and the corner of his mouth suddenly changed into a chilling smile. Mo Lingzi had lightning martial veins, and his experience should be similar to Du Xiaofu's. Presumably, his physical body had also been tempered, and the improvement he obtained was definitely much greater than Du Xiaofu's. In such a situation, how could Du Xiaofu allow it to continue? My Du family's blood flows in your body, but you're willing to be the devil religion's lackey. Du Xiaofu didn't think too much about it and went to Mo Lingzi's side. Then let me see what kind of person you are. A scoundrel who hides his head and shows his tail. The purple-gold heavenly tower appeared in his hand. Lightning sword rays pierced through the air and slashed on the light cocoon outside Mo Lingzi's body. Mysterious runes surged and shot out in all directions. A terrifying aura swept out, causing the sea of lightning to violently fluctuate. But the strange thing was, under such a powerful attack, the light cocoon only retreated 10 meters in the sea of lightning. The sword radiance was completely engulfed by the cocoon, and the cocoon itself was not damaged in the slightest. With regards to this outcome, Du Xiaofu and Du Tingxian had already happened when they joined forces, so he wasn't surprised. Actually, if one thought about it, they would feel relieved. Legend had it that an entire world had been buried here, and this place was known as the Tomb of Heaven and Earth. This was an extremely inconceivable place, so it was normal for incomprehensible things to occur here. Then let's try this move. Du Xiaofu made his move once again. The golden crow burning sky lightning was summoned by him. Surging golden lightning flashed, and a vast and boundless destructive aura spread out in the sea of lightning. Once the electric arc appeared, it caused the sea of lightning to boil. Countless silver electric snakes swam and swarmed towards it, causing the golden crow heaven burning lightning to become even stronger. Under Du Xiaofu's control, the golden crow heaven burning lightning flashed out a bright arc of electricity, blooming like a dazzling sun, blinding everyone's eyes. This time, the electric arc easily cut open the lightning cocoon outside Mo Lingzi's body, breaking through the cocoon and instantly invading. Then, a painful groan could be heard coming from the cocoon. Let's see how long you can hide. Seeing that the method was effective, Du Xiaofu didn't delay any longer. With a light wave of his hand, the silver silk soul devouring lightning, earth-shattering lightning, 3,000 quaking lightning, and other spiritual thunders flew out from his body. Chi. Several spiritual thunders spewed out terrifying lightning at the same time. They collided and intertwined, wreaking havoc in the sea of lightning. Finally, they gathered together and condensed into a lightning pillar, which struck down on the lightning cocoon. Boom! A loud rumble resounded. Under the bombardment of the lightning pillar, the cocoon outside Mo Lingzi's body didn't even last half a breath's time before it shattered, turning into lightning and scattering in the sea of lightning. The thunder martial vein that connected to the outside of the sea of lightning also instantly retracted and returned to Mo Lingzi's body. Du Xiaofu. Mo Lingzi's figure appeared. After seeing Du Xiaofu standing in front of him, he spoke indifferently. He was terrifyingly calm. It seemed that having Du Xiaofu break the cocoon didn't make him feel the slightest bit of anger. Let's see how long you can hide. Sacred sword roar. Du Xiaofu didn't waste any words with him. He directly slashed out with the purple-gold heavenly fault. One after another, complex and profound sword moves gathered together, but it was only a simple slash. When this sword slashed out, azure and golden brilliance shone brightly, and the sword light instantly spread out with lightning speed. The sword light was like a dragon soaring into the sky, like a rock soaring in the sky. Under the brilliance, there was a terrifying and domineering destructive energy hidden. A simple sword, but at this moment, it seemed to contain the power to move mountains and seas. It was enough to shake mountains and rivers, collapse mountains and split the earth and destroy everything. Under Mo Lingzi's horrified gaze, the sword light directly descended in front of him. In a hurry, Mo Lingzi gathered monstrous demonic energy all over his body. A malevolent demon head appeared in front of him, and its scarlet eyes shot out a gloomy and terrifying dark light. The demon head opened its mouth and roared, as if wanting to devour everything, and bit at the sword light. Oh! The sword light entered the demon's mouth, causing it to let out a howl that seemed to come from hell. The sword light and the demon's huge mouth fought, and a sharp whistling sound spread out. The rune waves that covered the sky and earth swept out, shaking the entire sea of lightning and causing boundless waves, as if the world was about to be destroyed. The two energies collided and intertwined, swallowing each other, and finally annihilating each other. Mo Lingzi was pushed back 100 meters, and the demonic energy around him dimmed. One of his hands was covering his chest, and blood was flowing under the hood of his robe. Obviously, in front of Du Xiaofu's current sage perfection realm cultivation, Mo Lingzi had already suffered heavy injuries from a single blow. Let's see how long you can last. Heavenly Horse Violent Palm. Du Xiaofu shouted, and his killing intent was activated. Today, without the protection of the 9 great demon emperors, it was the best opportunity to kill Mo Lingzi, and he didn't want to miss it. I've said it before, you can't kill me. Mo Lingzi's voice was as usual, without any emotion. As the demonic energy surged, the lightning martial vein in his body once again soared into the sky. The lightning martial vein emitted countless lightning snakes, and like clusters of roots of a divine tree, they took root in the sea of lightning. Chi-la-la, the lightning in the sea of lightning was seized, and spread along Mo Lingzi's martial vein, quickly entering his body. Soon, before Du Xiaofu's palm print arrived, layers of dense lightning cocoons once again appeared outside Mo Lingzi's body. Poof! Du Xiaofu's palm finally landed, hitting the light cocoon. However, just like the previous 2 times, the palm print only sent the light cocoon flying, but didn't cause any substantial damage. Du Xiaofu coldly snorted, and without hesitation, he called out spiritual thunder again, splitting the light cocoon outside Mo Lingzi's body apart again. Here, you'll never be able to do anything to me. After Mo Lingzi's figure appeared, before Du Xiaofu could make a move, he once again quickly urged the lightning martial vein, turning it into a lightning cocoon. Again and again, Du Xiaofu kept attacking, but every time the light cocoon shattered, Mo Lingzi would repeat the same trick, shrinking back into it, causing all of Du Xiaofu's attacks to lose their effect. Chapter 2469. Du Xiaofu controlled several bolts of spiritual lightning and could use them as a bridge to pry into the rules of this space. However, he couldn't fully control it. Mo Lingzi possessed the lightning martial vein. When the spiritual lightning struck the light cocoon, it would melt, but lightning would constantly replenish it. The lightning relied on the sea of lightning, forming a new cocoon of light in an unending stream. It formed a protective cocoon, causing all attacks to lose their effectiveness. It was impossible to completely hack it open. Thus, for a moment, Du Xiaofu couldn't do anything to him. Desolate ancient space. Du Xiaofu didn't believe it as he controlled the spiritual lightning to strike at Mo Lingzi, disintegrating the cocoon. At the same time, he summoned the desolate ancient space to bind the cocoon and find another way to deal with it. However, to Du Xiaofu's disappointment, due to some special factor here, he couldn't take the lightning cocoon away. Is there really nothing I can do to you? Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth as a ruthless intent rose in his heart as he launched one powerful attack after another. Skyquake wings, profound yellow emperor's seal, heavenly horse violent palm, star-shattering fist. The spiritual lightning bombarded continuously as all kinds of methods were executed. The violent energy surged like a tsunami as the sea of lightning fluctuated like an undercurrent. However, everything was the same as before. No matter how powerful the energy was, it could only make the light cocoon flutter in the sea of lightning. I've said it before. You can't do anything to me. Emo Lingzi calmly spoke from the light cocoon. His voice was stifled, but it was enough to be heard clearly. Du Xiaofu's eyelids twitched as he felt helpless. He discovered that Emo Lingzi's lightning martial vein was like the roots of a towering tree, entangled and firmly rooted in the sea of lightning. Under his all-out attack, the light cocoon was sent flying, but the roots were still absorbing energy from the sea of lightning and gathering it on the light cocoon. If I can control all 36 bolts of spiritual lightning, I should be able to get rid of it easily, Du Xiaofu muttered to himself, but he did not feel defeated. That was because he could see that every time he attacked, it would consume the light cocoon outside Emo Lingzi's body, affecting its transformation and preventing it from obtaining any benefits here. However, this was not the solution to the problem. Du Xiaofu silently closed his eyes. When he broke out of the cocoon, he had already retracted the thunder martial vein from the boundary of space. At this moment, it also appeared around him. Several bolts of spiritual thunder surrounded him, and the primordial spirit of the scarlet demonic monkey was also summoned to investigate the rules of this place. Using the spiritual lightning as a bridge, Du Xiaofu carefully sensed the special rhythm of this space. Not long after, he suddenly opened his eyes and a happy smile appeared on his face. What was left behind by the ancestors of my Du family, I will not allow the people of the devil religion to easily benefit from it. The purple robe fluttered in the sea of thunder. The great Peng's golden wings were suffused with golden light. As it flapped gently, the aura around its body gradually accumulated. When the aura had accumulated to an extreme point, Du Xiaofu suddenly shouted, "Thunder martial vein, open for me!" Walala! A vast aura erupted. Golden light and lightning intertwined, reflecting each other's brilliance as they shot out. The thunder martial vein was pushed to the extreme and expanded outwards. Clusters of lightning turned into countless tentacles, piercing into the sea of thunder and extending in all directions. It was as if a giant net had been cast into the sea of thunder and was constantly expanding. At the same time, several bolts of spiritual lightning supported Du Xiaofu's body, preventing him from being enveloped by the lightning and forming a light cocoon. Goo goo goo. The sea of thunder fluctuated like boiling water. The thunder martial vein absorbed endless energy and became thicker. At this moment, different from Du Xiaofu and Emo Lingzi, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, and Du Xiaoba's martial veins were still connected to the light cocoon from an infinite distance and had not been absorbed into their bodies. "Break for me!" Du Xiaofu shouted. Under the urging of all his strength, the thick martial vein rapidly expanded and spread out along the meridians of Du Tingxian and the other two martial veins to an infinite distance. Ka ka ka! When Du Xiaofu's martial vein expanded to the extreme, the sound of an eggshell cracking echoed in this sea of thunder. The terrifying aura fluctuation caused the entire space to tremble. That's a spatial crack. It should be a passage that leads to the outside world. Looking at the martial vein's light net that covered the entire space and feeling the changes here, Du Xiaofu finally laughed. Subsequently, the gaze he looked at Emo Lingzi with was filled with a chilling intent. Du Xiaofu maintained the state of the thunder martial vein with all his strength. As the golden wings on his back flapped, his figure flashed and appeared in front of Emo Lingzi in the blink of an eye. "You're just wasting your efforts." As if sensing Du Xiaofu's arrival, Emo Lingzi's stifled voice sounded again. "Is that so?" Du Xiaofu sneered. Then, without any fancy moves, he punched out, tyrannical fist path. The mighty energy ripples instantly spread out, and the sea of thunder split apart, creating a vacuum. Such a punch was incomparably terrifying. If it was in the outside world, it would probably be able to easily collapse a space. Ordinary stage powerhouses wouldn't dare to take it lightly. Boom! The fist struck down and fiercely hit the light cocoon around Lingzi, and a terrifying light burst out. The light cocoon was sent flying, but it still didn't break. The roots formed by the martial vein were still swaying in the sea of thunder, absorbing energy. Regarding this, Du Xiaofu wasn't surprised at all. The same method continued to rain down like a storm. Tyrannical fist path. Tyrannical fist path. Tyrannical fist path. The light cocoon formed by Lingzi was sent flying again and again. Du Xiaofu followed closely behind, repeatedly bombarding it with the same move. Du Xiaofu, why waste your energy? If I can't get any benefits, you can't either. Lingzi said indifferently. Being continuously attacked by Du Xiaofu with spiritual thunder, the energy absorbed by his thunder martial vein was only enough to maintain the light cocoon. It was simply unable to transform his body and transform it. The blood of the Du family flows in your body, but you insist on being a dog of the devil religion. You don't deserve the benefits here. Du Xiaofu didn't stop attacking and drove Lingzi step by step towards the martial vein that was hanging in the sky. Since I can't kill you, then I'll just blast you out with a punch. Du Xiaofu shouted again and punched out the same way. Tyrannical fist path. Boom. As the attack fell, the light cocoon formed by Lingzi was struck into the bright light net formed by Du Xiaofu's martial vein. You? Lingzi's voice sounded with some astonishment. At this moment, he finally understood Du Xiaofu's goal. Unfortunately, just as Lingzi's words left his mouth, he was swallowed by the light pillar along with the light cocoon, disappearing from sight. Seeing this result, Du Xiaofu retracted his fist and let out a long sigh of relief, smiling happily. Chapter 2470. The devil religion's plot. The huge lake stretched as far as the eye could see. It was calm without any ripples on its surface, like a mirror. However, there was an endless amount of death chi drifting out from the lake. Without the strength of a martial domain realm, one's body and soul would be corroded if they stayed here for too long. In the lake, there were no traces of life. It was like a land of death. On one side of the lake, one could see the silhouette of a vast hill in the distance. The vast hill was dark and gloomy, like a tomb that had been magnified countless times. Countless strands of light of varying thickness climbed from top to bottom. They were like the bloodline patterns in a living being's body. They were also like vines that covered the tomb. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Suddenly, the vines shone brightly. Countless blazing electric arcs shot out from them, making the tomb look like an egg with countless cracks on its shell. Right at this moment, a figure dashed out of the crack with golden light emanating from his body like a scorching sun. Ha 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 ha, I'm finally out. The golden silhouette laughed heartily. After he stopped, the light receded, revealing a dignified young man in golden robes. Who else could this young man be other than the daring Du Xiaoyao? Turning around to look at the huge tomb behind him, little demon Du cursed, "Motherfucker, I risked my life to enter and was even struck by lightning for more than half a month. But in the end, I didn't get any benefits. What a fucking pain in the ass." Screech. After Du Xiaoyao appeared, another huge bird flew out of the crack. The huge bird's wings stretched across the sky. Bright golden light shot out from its eyes, exuding a domineering aura. On its broad back, there were quite a few figures. This bird was Jalo Batian of the golden-winged Great Rocks. On the broad back stood Yi Piaoling, Qinggu Yu, the Barren Country's people, the School of Agriculture, the School of Moism, the Confucian School, and other factions that were on good terms with the Barren Country. Uncle Little Demon, this is called learning from your mistakes. In the future, when you're looking for treasures, pay more attention, lest you stumble again. Little Star appeared and attacked Du Xiaoyao. Little girl. Surprisingly, Du Xiaoyao did not refute him. She only muttered in dissatisfaction. Huff, huff, huff. After Little Star, Fire Lightning, Lei Tian, and the others appeared one after another. Another large group of figures flew out of the tomb. Legalism, famous scholars, dragons, Buddhists, and phoenixes from the outside world. as well as humans from the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds and experts from the Beast Alliance. We're finally safe. That was close. Yeah, I almost died in there. Countless creatures discussed among themselves, rejoicing that they were still alive. Many of them looked at Du Xiaoyao with gratitude. If Du Xiaoyao had not found the way out, all of them would have died in there. None of them would have been able to escape. Even so, many living beings were still swallowed by the bolts of lightning and died without making a sound. Brother Qingchun, we don't know when Xiaofu and the others will come out. Are we going to wait here? Ouyang Shuang asked worriedly. She was most worried about little Qilin. I think we don't have to rush. Since everyone is here, why don't we collect some debts first? Du Xiaoyao's eyes shone with golden light. She looked at the experts from the legalism and school of vertical and horizontal, and her killing intent burst forth. Some debts will have to be collected sooner or later. But now that the devil religion is here, I'm afraid that if we attack now, others will take advantage of us. Jin Qingchun glanced at the dragon wilderness ancestor of the Beast Alliance and the ancestor of the distant Sky Flame Phoenix tribe. He continued Du Xiaoyao's words. Everyone nodded in agreement when they heard that. Now that the desolate country's strength was extremely strong, and with the help of the Golden Rock tribe and other friendly forces, they could completely suppress the legalism and school of vertical and horizontal. However, the 9 demon emperors of the devil religion were eyeing them covetously. If they were to reap the benefits without doing anything, it would not be worth it. They still have people inside. Jin Qingchun saw that a familiar figure was missing from the devil religion's lineup. He could not help but raise his thick eyebrows. It's Emo Lingzi, little Xingxing said as the mark between his eyebrows glowed with a strange light. Everyone in the desolate country knew that Emo Lingzi had the thunder martial vein and had an unusual relationship with the Du family. I hope he won't bring any trouble to Xiaofu and the others. Old Lady Jialo Maluo said worriedly. The Du family's thunder martial vein has completely opened this secret place. If I'm not wrong, there will be a huge change here. I'm afraid it will cause quite a commotion. At this time, Hualazi said, there's nothing worth exploring here. Leave a few people here to wait for support. The rest of you can leave. There are still many opportunities in the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds. All right. Jun Qingchun nodded and dismissed the desolate country's people. Other than himself, only Du Xiaoqing, Ouyang Shuang, Hualazi, Lei Tianhuang, and Old Lei remained. A total of 6 people. The various clans also retreated. The densely packed figures flew to the sky above the lake and tore open the space to leave. Soon, in front of the huge tomb, other than the 6 people from the desolate country, only the 9 demon emperors of the devil religion did not move. It seemed that they had no intention of leaving. I'll stay to support them too. Jialo Batian was worried that the desolate country's people would be weak and be taken advantage of by the devil religion, so he stayed behind. Then, Lei Yang and Tiger Wilderness clan ancestor also expressed that they would stay to support Du Xiaofu and the others. In the end, the world became empty, and only 2 groups of people were left looking at each other from afar. The devil religion has ulterior motives. Emo Lingzi stayed inside, and the 9 demon emperors stayed to support him. They must be up to something big. I hope they don't cause any trouble, Jialo Batian said worriedly. The others nodded in agreement. The devil religion had been stirring up trouble, seizing the purple lightning profound cauldron, and searching for the spiritual thunder. They must be planning something unspeakable. If they succeeded in their scheme, then all living beings would face an even greater crisis in the upcoming great calamity. Thinking of this, everyone's hearts became heavier. On the devil religion's side, the great demon emperor's dwarf-like body was surging with devil chi, covering his face and making it impossible to see his expression. The 9 demon emperor looked at the desolate country's people with a cold gaze and said coldly, "The desolate country has repeatedly obstructed our devil religion. Do you want to destroy them now?" Emo Lingzi's trip is related to whether our devil religion can control this world or not. If your recklessness spoils the plan, I don't need to do anything. Lord Demon God will kill you personally. The great demon emperor's words were harsh. He glanced at the 9 demon emperor and gave him a warning look. The 9 demon emperor nodded slightly and did not dare to say anything more. He stood quietly to the side. Chapter 2471. As the great demonic emperor's terrifying voice fell, the other 7 demonic emperors also emitted demonic aura. They all knew that this place was of great importance to the entire devil religion. I hope that kid can live up to our expectations. The secrets left here must not be taken away by the devil religion. On the desolate countryside, the Fire Thunder ancestor said with a heavy heart. Ouyang Shuang raised her eyebrows and stepped forward. Forefather, do you know something? Don't keep us in suspense. Master Flamespark nodded. Actually, all of you already know that this place is rumored to have once buried a world. This rumor isn't actually a rumor, because it's true. This vast hill in front of us is a tomb. Huole Laozu threw out a piece of heavy news as soon as he opened his mouth. Everyone was shocked beyond words. The tomb of heaven and earth. This really was a tomb of heaven and earth. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock and awe. Everyone knew this saying, but who dared to believe it? Master Flamespark ignored everyone's shock and continued. What's left here is related to the future of this world. It's related to the future of this world. What do you mean? Sacred Array Child John Qingchun asked impatiently. Master Fire Thunder glanced at the 9 demon kings. He was still worried, so he didn't try to hide anything. However, he just explained. If Emo Lingzi gets the opportunity in this place, the demon cult will have the chance to control this world. They will be able to rule over all the creatures in this world. At that time, even the 3,000 great cosmos lords and the dragon god who chased the devil religion to the ends of the earth back then can only run for their lives. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. What kind of concept was it to be able to control this world? Even the 3,000 great cosmos lords couldn't do this. Then, if Xiaofu can obtain the final benefit, will he also be able to control this world? At that time, wouldn't it be easy to deal with the devil religion? Zhen Qingchun raised his thick eyebrows and looked at Huole Zi. According to Huole Laozu, once he took control of this world, he would be able to look down upon the world and be invincible. After all, when the 3,000 major cosmos lords came to this realm, their strength was greatly suppressed. That was why the God Fiend managed to escape with his life. When the others heard this, they all nodded and looked at Huole Laozu, indicating that they had the same question. You guys are too naive. Master Flamespark didn't laugh at everyone's thoughts. His aged face was full of graveness as he said, if Emo Lingzi fails and Xiaofu gets all the benefits, dealing with the devil religion will only increase our chances of victory by a tiny bit. It's true that Xiaofu's talent is exceptional, but with the God Fiend's methods and Emo Lingzi's help, he has the chance to control this world. However, for Xiaofu, it's too difficult. There's almost no hope. What's more, the God Fiend is recovering quickly. I'm afraid that there's not much time left for that kid to grow. Everyone understood the meaning of Huole Laozu's words. Simply put, if Du Xiaofu succeeded in obtaining the final opportunity, it would be difficult for him to control this world and deal with the devil religion more easily. However, if Emo Lingzi succeeded, with the God Fiend's methods, the devil religion's strength would increase greatly and bring disaster to all living beings. It's all up to Xiaofu now. For a moment, everyone's hearts were heavy. They didn't know if Emo Lingzi had any hidden methods that would bring about unfavorable consequences to the Du family. It could be said that no matter how difficult the situation was, Du Xiaofu had no choice. He could only succeed and not fail. Time passed silently. Everyone from the desolate country fell into silence and stopped talking. Huole Laozu's words made everyone feel great pressure for the impending calamity. There's movement. At this moment, the shirtless Lei Tianhuang spoke. His eyes flickered and filled with lightning as he looked at the tomb of heaven and earth. The rest of the people also noticed this and shot their gazes over at the same time. All of a sudden, the lightning net covering the tomb began to shine brightly. The resplendent light was blinding and overflowed as if it wanted to swallow the entire tomb. Countless lightning bolts intertwined to form a large net, radiating light in all directions like the cracks on the tomb. It was through those cracks that they had previously escaped. The light lasted for a long time and didn't fade. A vast pressure descended and suppressed everyone's nascent spirits. Apart from Lei Tianhuang and Hua Lazy, everyone subconsciously bowed their heads. Their blood seemed to stop flowing as reverence rose from the bottom of their hearts. The pressure came from their nascent spirits and bloodline, and had nothing to do with cultivation. On the other side, the demonic aura around the 9 demon emperors dissipated as they drifted back several dozen meters. Light flickered in the eyes of the 9 demon emperors. At this moment, he seemed to have returned to that tragic battle in the primeval era. Fear crept onto his face. Are Big Brother and the others coming out? Du Xiaoqing's large eyes moved slightly as she stared ahead. Something's coming out, Lei Yang said, his beard trembling slightly. Everyone also discovered that there was something flying out from the countless light webs. It wasn't until they got closer that they saw it clearly. It was a large cocoon wrapped in lightning. When the cocoon appeared, the lightning net above the tomb of heaven and earth dimmed and returned to its previous state. Terrifying tendrils of lightning trailed behind the cocoon, swaying in the air with an awe-inspiring presence. The lightning martial vein. That's the Du family's lightning martial vein. What's happening inside? Who's coming out from inside? Those from the desolate country tensed up as they watched without blinking. This was related to whether the devil religion scheme would succeed. Jujujio. As soon as it flew out, the large cocoon emitted blazing lightning and melted at an extremely fast speed. It was as if ice and snow were melting, making sizzling sounds. When the cocoon was about to completely melt, a strange figure in purple robes was revealed. Hemo Lingzi, the 9 demon emperors called out. That's right, this purple-robed figure was Emo Lingzi, who'd stayed in the secret ground with the Du family and hadn't come out with the rest. All of a sudden, the great demon emperor rushed forward. Demonic chi surged as a slender hand stretched out from it. However, this hand was covered with densely packed black scales, causing chills to run down one's spine at the sight of it. Whoosh! The great demon emperors reached out and sucked Emo Lingzi into his hand as demonic aura surged. 2 serene gazes shot out from the eyes shrouded in demonic aura and looked at Emo Lingzi with a burning gaze. How is it? Chapter 2472. Emo Lingzi was the first to come out. Could it be that he's already obtained the opportunity? Elder Lei asked in a low voice. The Desolate Nations group also looked solemn. Such worries weren't without reason. Emo Lingzi's aura was slightly disordered, and there were sword marks on his robes. He cut a sorry figure. The Desolate Nations group understood that there must have been some battle in the tomb of heaven and earth. They just didn't know what the final outcome was, or why Du Xiaofu and the others hadn't come out. Everyone pricked up their ears when they heard the great demon emperor's question to Emo Lingzi. They stared motionlessly at the devil religion, wanting to hear Emo Lingzi's answer. Emo Lingzi shook his head in the face of the great demon emperor's gaze. His calm voice rang out as he recounted everything that had happened in the tomb of heaven and earth. He didn't hide the fact that he'd been blasted out by Du Xiaofu in the end. The 9 demon emperors and the Desolate Nations group were stunned and astonished. Ha 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 ha. Du Xiaofu, that brat. Well done. The Desolate Nations group was relieved when they learned of the situation. The devil religion's scheme had failed, which meant that the worst outcome wouldn't occur. Jin Qingchun then laughed heartily. The traitor of the Du family, the lackey of the devil religion. He wanted to fish in troubled waters and seize the opportunity, but he was blasted out by my little brother in the end. Ha ha ha, how satisfying. How satisfying. Du Xiaofu, you ruined the great plans of the devil religion. I must kill you. The 9th demon emperor gnashed his teeth and spat out hatefully. Ha ha ha. You want to kill my grandson with that little bit of strength of yours? That's not enough. Jialo Batian also laughed, his voice loud and clear as he attacked without any scruples. The 9th demon emperor was furious, but he had nothing to say. Indeed, Du Xiaofu's current strength wasn't something he could deal with. Since that brat isn't here, why don't we kill all these people first and cut off his arms? The 7th demon emperor's body was lithe and alluring, and her voice was crisp and clear. She looked at the desolate country's camp and said leisurely, when that Du Xiaofu comes out, we will join forces to suppress him and eradicate the devil religion. Humph, do you think I'm afraid of you? With a cold snort, Zhang Xingchuan's 6 wheels blood-killing array appeared in his hands. A biting, cold, murderous aura fluctuated as he said in a clear voice, "My Huang country is not afraid of a battle." The great demon emperor let go of Mo Lingzi with his small, scale-covered palm and gloomily said, "This matter isn't urgent. Lord Demon God is at a critical juncture, and we still have important matters to attend to in the outside world. For the time being, we shouldn't complicate matters. When Lord Devil God fully recovered, he would not allow Du Xiaofu to cause any more trouble. The desolate country will not be able to survive for long." The other demon emperors nodded in agreement. In the current situation, the devil religion didn't have much of an advantage against the desolate country even if they were to fight. They didn't have much confidence in killing the desolate country's people here. "Let's go." The great demon emperor roared in a deep voice and took to the air. The other 8 demon emperors also brought Mo Lingzi to the air above the lake behind them and tore open space to leave. Watching the devil religion leave, Master Hualei said to the desolate country's people, "The devil religion has retreated. Leave a few people behind to provide support. Everyone else, leave as well." There were still many opportunities in the ancient wilderness fearsome grounds that couldn't be missed. Zhao Batian, forefather Hu Huang, Du Xiaoqing, Lei Tianhuang, and Zhang Xingchun left one after another, leaving behind only Ouyang Shuang, who was worried about the little Qilin, Elder Lei, and Master Hualei, who were waiting for Du Tingxian. The tomb of heaven and earth was filled with lightning, as if it was a sea of lightning. There was no fierceness to this sea of lightning. On the contrary, it rippled with a gentle presence. For large lightning cocoons bobbed in the sea of lightning, 3 large and 1 small. Countless tentacles that resembled blood veins were connected to the cocoons. Light rippled as they continuously absorbed energy from the sea of lightning. Ever since driving Mo Lingzi out with a single punch, Du Xiaofu had been wandering aimlessly in the sea of lightning by himself, or cultivating quietly to pass the time. His drunkard father, Sister Xiaojing, Du Xiaolin, and Du Xiaoba were all still in the process of transforming their bloodlines. Du Xiaofu was well aware that his physical body had been refined to an extreme within the cocoons. With his current cultivation level, he couldn't make any further improvements. Therefore, he didn't use his lightning martial vein to absorb energy, only waiting silently. This boundless space was now completely filled by the sea of lightning. One could only imagine how vast the energy contained within was. Du Xiaofu estimated that even if his drunkard father and the others could transform to a certain limit, the amount of energy they could absorb in the end would still be insignificant in the face of this vast sea of lightning. He didn't know what this place would become in the end, but there were definitely more secrets to be unearthed. Time slowly flowed by. On this day, Du Xiaofu suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the lightning cocoon formed by his drunkard father. Rustle, rustle, rustle. A sound like snow melting rang out. It was very faint, but with Du Xiaofu's cultivation, he could hear it clearly. As the sound traveled out, Du Xiaofu saw the lightning cocoon around Du Tingxian slowly melt away. Floating in the sea of lightning, the tentacle-like lightning martial vein that extended to the end of the space also gradually retracted. Finally, under Du Xiaofu's gaze, Du Tingxuan's tall and sturdy body appeared. A fierce and intimidating aura burst forth, and 2 streaks of lightning shot out from Du Tingxuan's valiant eyes, causing the entire sea of lightning to tremble. Seeing this scene, the corners of Du Xiaofu's mouth curled up into a smile. His drunkard father's cultivation had improved significantly and was much stronger than before. In particular, the transformation of his physical body was even more incredible. That aura was not much weaker than his own immortal Xin body. Du Xiaofu didn't even have time to greet Du Tingxian when a series of sounds of ice and snow melting came one after another. Rustle, 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 rustle. After Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Du Xiaoba, and the little Qilin all revealed their figures. Father, brother, Uncle Xiaofu. After the 3 of them broke out of the cocoon, they quickly surrounded Du Xiaofu and Du Tingxian, each of them exuding a powerful aura. Du Xiaoba's small body was incomparably sturdy, and a misty golden light spread over his skin. He was like a ferocious human-shaped golden-winged rock, fluctuating with a terrifying aura. Du Xiaolin still had a cute appearance, but his cultivation aura had directly risen to the Sage Realm Perfection initial stage and vaguely reached the Sage Realm Intermediate stage. One had to know that when this little guy was just born, he easily defeated Su Sanyan from the school of Vertical and Horizontal and Hui Wu from the school of Famous. If outsiders were to see this, they would probably only be able to exclaim that the immemorial Qilin cub was indeed terrifying. Chapter 2473. Compared to Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaolin, Du Xiaojing's aura was much more restrained. Peak of Sage Realm late stage, Du Xiaofu could see that his sister Xiaojing had also improved greatly. She already had 1 foot in the threshold of Sage Realm Perfection. This should be the result of his sister trying to stabilize her realm and suppressing it. From this, it could be seen that the benefits his sister obtained here were definitely not inferior to others. This kind of improvement was too terrifying. However, soon after Du Tingxian and the other 3 broke out of their cocoons, new changes began to occur in the Lightning Sea, attracting their attention. While waiting for his drunkard father and the others to transform, Du Xiaofu didn't stay idle. Earlier, when he broke the light cocoon and successfully expelled Lingzi, it was through several spiritual thunders that he had some understanding of the rules in this space. However, he didn't obtain any more information during this period of time. The entire Lightning Sea had been calm. At this moment, the originally calm and gentle sea of lightning around them gradually began to churn like a surging river. Goo goo goo. The range of the Lightning Sea's fluctuations gradually expanded, like an undercurrent at the bottom of the sea, making muffled sounds. There's going to be a change again. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and quietly watched this movement. This place buried the world's greatest secret, and no one knew about it until now. From the little Qilin walking out of the lightning sun to the lightning sea that flooded the entire space and benefited the Du family's bloodline, it was clear that this place was extraordinary. However, it was just extraordinary, and it was still lacking compared to the concept of the world's greatest secret. The current changes were probably going to unveil some kind of mysterious veil. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was somewhat looking forward to it. Gudu, gudu, gudu. Torrents surged within the sea of lightning. It was as though many huge dragons were turning over, causing the entire sea of lightning to churn violently. The fluctuations were getting bigger and bigger, and there was actually a whistling sound. Waves of undercurrents converged in an instant, condensing into a boundless vortex. It was as if a large hand had reached into the sea of lightning and was desperately stirring the entire sea of lightning, causing boundless waves to ripple out. For a moment, the bodies of Du Xiaofu and his family all spun along with the whirlpool, heading towards its center. At the center of the vortex, a huge black hole appeared. It was like the huge mouth of the Demon King, as if it wanted to devour people. There were no fluctuations coming from the black hole. A powerful devouring force was emitted, and the boundless sea of lightning was devoured in the blink of an eye. When the lightning in the sea of lightning entered within 1,000 feet of it, it became taut and was directly torn apart. Not good. Resist. Du Xiaofu bellowed. His Saint Realm cultivation erupted as he desperately tried to stabilize his body. He felt an intense sense of danger. It was incomparably terrifying. The suction force emitted by the black hole was extremely powerful, as if it wanted to pull his primordial spirit out. It was hard to imagine what kind of terrible consequences he would face once he was torn in. Du Tingxian and the other 3 also sensed the danger. They all used their cultivation to control their bodies with difficulty, resisting the suction force, and struggled to break free. Seeing that his drunkard father and the other 3 had all stabilized their bodies and were safe for a while, Du Xiaofu was also relieved. However, before he could heave a sigh of relief, another hair-raising turn of events occurred. In Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace, several spiritual thunders, such as the 3,000 quaking thunder, the golden crow sky burning thunder, and the silver net soul swallowing thunder, rushed out with a clatter and swept towards the terrifying black hole in the center of the vortex. The most frightening thing was that there was an invisible force on the spiritual thunders that was connected to Du Xiaofu, and a huge force pulled his body. Several spiritual thunders had already been integrated and were completely under Du Xiaofu's control. But at this time, they did not listen to his command at all and flew out on their own. Being pulled by the invisible force, Du Xiaofu's whole body moved along with the trajectory of the spiritual thunders. Golden wings of the great Pong, open for me, Du Xiaofu shouted. Golden light burst out of his body, and qi poured out from the divine watchtower without reservation. The golden wings of the great Pong behind him flapped desperately, trying to control his body and not be driven by the spiritual thunders. At this time, he could no longer care about whether the spiritual thunders would be lost or not. He could only let them go. Otherwise, if he was swallowed by the terrifying black hole in the center of the vortex, he would not be able to keep his life. However, Du Xiaofu's full strength did not have any effect. Compared to the vortex formed by the entire sea of thunder, his body was too small. Originally, he could only control himself to not be pulled into the black hole like his drunkard father and the other three when he used his full strength of the sage realm. But now, the pulling force from several spiritual thunders made his body sway like a lonely boat in the storm, and he was involuntarily pulled into the center of the vortex. Golden wings of the great Pong. Pong descends to the 9 heavens. Rise for me. Dark yellow emperor's seal. Thunder martial vein. Open for me, holy sword roar. While Du Xiaofu was pouring into the whirlpool, he shouted loudly and used all kinds of powerful techniques one after another. Terrifying energy surged in the whirlpool of the Thunder Sea, trying to stir up the whirlpool and find a way to get out of it. However, after the monstrous energy burst out, they all changed shape and then collapsed. They were all swallowed by the vortex, and everything was useless. Du Xiaofu's body couldn't help but be pulled down towards the black hole. Du Tingxian and the other three saw this and all exclaimed, "Xiaofu, father, brother." While talking, the 4 of them did not hesitate to follow the vortex, wanting to help Du Xiaofu escape. "I'm fine, don't worry about me," Du Xiaofu shouted. His drunkard father and the others were in a situation where they could not even protect themselves. Several spiritual thunders spun down and were quickly swallowed by the huge black hole, disappearing without a trace. In that instant, the powerful pulling force became even more ferocious, dragging Du Xiaofu's body downwards at an extremely terrifying speed. Du Xiaofu's body was completely out of control, like a blade of grass floating in a torrent, without the slightest resistance. He simply withdrew all his profound qi and no longer resisted, going with the flow. The moment the spiritual thunders entered the black hole, Du Xiaofu had a vague feeling that although the black hole seemed extremely dangerous, it might not be a place where one would die. There should be a corresponding way to escape. Du Tingxian and the other 3 followed the wave, but they were far from catching up with Du Xiaofu's spinning speed. Seeing that Du Xiaofu's figure was getting farther and farther away, they could only try their best to stop their bodies again and watch this scene with their eyes wide open. As Du Xiaofu spun down with the vortex, in the eyes of the few people, his figure became smaller and smaller, gradually turning into a black dot, spinning at an extremely fast speed in the vortex and finally being swallowed by the huge black hole. I'm on the Tibetan Plateau, a complete pastoral area. There are many places where there is no mobile phone signal, causing yesterday's update to only be posted at 4 o'clock in the morning. I apologize to everyone. Chapter 2474. After Du Xiaofu's figure completely disappeared, the Sea of Lightning had already been reduced by more than half. The huge whirlpool was still howling as it was continuously swallowed by the black hole. Du Tingxian and the other 3 did their best to maintain their figures in the whirlpool. As time passed, the Sea of Lightning that had originally filled the entire space was also gradually swallowed up. The huge suction force gradually weakened, and the huge black hole also slowly became blurred, no longer as terrifying as before. Du Tingxian and the other 3 began to regain full control of their bodies. "Dad!" Seeing that the black hole was about to disappear, the little Qilint's 4 hooves moved, its tender voice shouting loudly, wanting to pounce over. "Xiaolin, come back quickly!" Du Tingxian was shocked and hurriedly flew over, pulling Du Xiaolin into his arms. "Grandpa, my dad is gone." Du Xiaolin's big eyes dimmed as he said to Du Tingxian, Du Tingxian squeezed out a smile and said to the little Qilin, "Don't worry, your dad is amazing. Nothing will happen to him." "Really?" Du Xiaolin's big eyes rippled as he looked innocently at Du Tingxian. "Of course it's true. Grandpa won't lie to you." Du Tingxian had full confidence in Du Xiaofu and firmly believed that nothing major would happen to him. Over the years, that son of his had gone through countless trials and tribulations. How many times had he braved dangers and fallen into certain death situations? But in the end, he was always able to turn the situation around. It was also because of this that he had today's achievements, shocking the world. However, although Du Tingxian was smiling on the surface, he was also somewhat worried in his heart. Because this place was unusual, and rumor had it that the world's greatest secret was buried here. Just this gimmick alone was enough to scare people. "Let's go and wait for your dad outside. He'll be back soon," Du Tingxian said, looking around with the little Qilin in his arms. In this space, the vortex had already dissipated, the black hole had disintegrated, and the sea of lightning had completely disappeared. The dazzling sun of thunder and lightning that he had seen when he first entered was no longer there. All that was left was a black hole of nothingness. There was not the slightest bit of light, making people feel as if they were in an extremely dark night. With the cultivation of these people, it was easy for them to see each other clearly in the darkness. "All right then, let's go out and wait for my father." Du Xiaolin nodded his head obediently. Then, the thunder martial vein erupted from his small body. Chi chi chi. The space was torn apart. The four of them turned their heads to look in the direction where the black hole had disappeared. Then, they entered the space crack one after another and left this space. After Du Xiaofu gave up resisting the suction force, he felt the sky and earth spinning as he spun down in the shape of a tie. This rotation continued. Even though he was following the trajectory of several bolts of spiritual lightning, he was still spinning after entering the black hole. His body was completely out of his control. Du Xiaofu opened his eyes, trying to see where he was. Darkness. Boundless darkness. The power of the primordial spirit spied out, but he could not sense anything. He could not even see his own state. Including his own physical body and primordial spirit, it was as if they did not exist. The only thing he could sense was nothingness. However, Du Xiaofu knew that he did exist, because he could clearly feel that he was still spinning, but he could not detect everything around him. This experience was very similar to a ghost without a body or soul, with only a trace of consciousness that could not be extinguished. Spinning. Spinning non-stop. Du Xiaofu did not feel that this spinning had any tendency to stop. It was as if he was going to spin until the end of time, and the end of time and space. He was going to spin until the end of the world and everything turned into dust. In this state, for Du Xiaofu, the concept of time had lost its meaning. Du Xiaofu continued to spin in this dark nothingness. It was as if he had been spinning for 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 10,000,000 years, or even longer. As he spun, Du Xiaofu gradually lost his patience. He gradually became impatient, gradually became anxious, and gradually sank into oblivion. He gradually forgot who and what he was. The only remaining sliver of consciousness was that he felt that he would continue to spin endlessly. And it was at this moment that light suddenly appeared. Pain. The sudden appearance of light hurt his eyes. He subconsciously squinted his eyes and stretched out a hand to block his eyes. Why does it hurt so much? What's so bright? Where is this place? What am I? Who am I? Countless questions, countless bewilderment. Soon after, his consciousness gradually returned. I know, it's my eyes that hurt. That's light. It's blinding. I'm a person. I'm Du Xiaofu. I'm the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. I'm the desolate country's rock emperor. I've entered the vortex black hole. My whereabouts are unknown. I'm still alive. When all of his consciousness returned, Du Xiaofu stood up shakily and checked his condition. He heaved a long sigh of relief. His body was intact, and all of his belongings were still with him. Where is this place? After making some adjustments, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and began to size up his surroundings. This was a vast wilderness with lush green grass that stretched as far as the eye could see. Occasionally, A few giant trees would fall to the ground, their branches and leaves lush like umbrellas. In the distance, he could see a boundless ancient forest with towering old trees. Countless birds were entrenched in them, their vitality strong. According to Du Xiaofu's judgment, most of these birds were above the venerable realm, and there were even many domain realm existences. Du Xiaofu spread out all of his primordial spirit's power in an attempt to obtain more information. However, he did not expect that once the primordial spirit's power was released, it would instantly reveal everything within a radius of millions of miles. In a small river a million miles away, a fingernail-sized fish was swimming freely in the river. It had nowhere to hide. My primordial spirit is so powerful. Du Xiaofu was stunned. Although his cultivation was in the sage realm's consummate realm, it was absolutely impossible for him to be so powerful. Such a powerful primordial spirit made him feel incredulous. However, before Du Xiaofu could think any further, some things had barged into the range of his perception. It was a huge black cloud that appeared from the void. It was extremely strange. As soon as the black cloud appeared, it covered the entire sky, causing this area to look like a dark night without any light. Above the black cloud, black gas billowed, emitting a strong aura of death. Chi, 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 chi. After the ancient forest in the distance was contaminated by the black gas, it immediately lost its vitality, leaving only bare dead trees standing there. Ao? Countless creatures in the ancient forest, including those domain realm experts, instantly rotted after coming into contact with the black gas. Their blood dried up, and they let out a miserable howl before dying one after another. They did not have time to escape at all. Everywhere it passed, it turned into scorched earth. Chapter 2475. The black cloud flew over at an extremely fast speed. Black chi soared into the sky, and wherever it passed, all living beings died. It was as if all their vitality had been sucked away in an instant. Even with Du Xiaofu's current strength, it was very difficult to achieve this kind of power. What a terrifying aura! Du Xiaofu's expression changed drastically, and a chill rose in his heart. Even with his current cultivation, he felt that he was powerless against that black cloud. There was no need to think at all. Du Xiaofu unfolded the great Pong golden wings, and golden light burst out as he flew away quickly. However, that black cloud was extremely fast. Before Du Xiaofu could tear through space, it had already arrived above his head. It's over. Du Xiaofu's expression changed drastically. He only felt that death was at hand. However, the strange thing was that after the black cloud swept over Du Xiaofu was still intact. That overwhelming aura of death did not cause him any harm. Standing in the void in a daze, Du Xiaofu watched the black cloud fly away and then disappear with a look of surprise in his eyes. Then, Du Xiaofu raised his eyes and looked around. He saw that the surrounding 1,000 miles had turned into a scorched earth. There was no longer any sign of life. Even the ground under Du Xiaofu's feet was the same. What the hell was that? Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed as he detected a familiar aura in that black cloud. Could it be someone from the devil religion? Yes, that aura was exactly the same as that of someone from the devil religion, except that it was countless times stronger than the 9 demon emperors. Let's follow and take a look. Du Xiaofu did not know where this place was, nor did he know what that strange black cloud was. However, since it did not cause him any harm, and perhaps it was related to the devil religion, he would go and investigate. Without hesitation, Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand, tore through space, and disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he was completely dumbfounded. This was a battlefield. The earth was fractured, and mountains and rivers were shattered. High up in the sky, the strange black cloud was floating and fighting fiercely with a man in green. Terrifying energy wreaked havoc, crashing down like a tsunami. Pitch-black cracks were torn open in the void, and it took a long time for the void to close up. Boom, boom, boom. The azure-robed man struck out with his palm, causing the black clouds to fall, revealing a humanoid figure that resembled a giant. The giant's body was enormous. After it fell to the ground, it flattened a large area of mountains and rivers. Countless creatures died tragically. Roar! The giant roared. It opened its mouth and sucked in. A large group of creatures flew over from the distance like mosquitoes. These creatures were still in the air when they exploded into clouds of blood mist and were swallowed into the giant's stomach. In an instant, the giant's aura became stronger. Looking at the young man, Du Xiaofu murmured, "The master of the 3,000 major realms." Yes, Du Xiaofu had seen this man several times. When he obtained the Purple Lightning Profound Cauldron in the Divine Realm, he had seen the projection left behind by him. There was no doubt that the giant figure was the demon god of the devil religion. Kill, kill, kill. On the other side, there were also large groups of figures. Their bodies were rippling with demonic chi, and they were slaughtering countless creatures. Their auras were shocking and unstoppable. These figures were powerful and ferocious. As demonic chi surged, the bodies of the creatures were torn apart and blood flowed. This was a one-sided slaughter. Under the merciless slaughter of the devil religion, none of the creatures that were involved could stay out of the battle. It was an extremely tragic scene. The 9 great demon emperors. Du Xiaofu recognized that the figures rippling with demonic chi were the 9 great demon emperors that he was familiar with. However, there were 5 other demonic figures whose auras were even more powerful than the 9 great demon emperors. They were fighting fiercely with an azure dragon. That's the dragon god? He's little Xingxing's father? Du Xiaofu looked at the azure dragon and muttered to himself, "Then this place is... Could it be that I've passed through a spatial passageway and arrived at the primeval times?" When he saw all of this, Du Xiaofu finally thought of something, and he came to a sudden understanding and was extremely shocked. Exactly. This is definitely the primeval times. He finally understood that after he entered the black hole at the center of the vortex, he'd actually arrived at the primeval times. Du Xiaofu was shocked in his heart. The calamity of the primeval times had an enormous impact on the later generations, and it had caused him to step by step onto a path of irreconcilable enmity with the devil religion. But he'd never imagined that he would actually be able to witness all of this with his own 2 eyes. However, amidst such an intense battle, Du Xiaofu noticed that there was a figure standing high above in the sky and silently watching all of this occur. This figure was extremely mighty and seemed as tall as the heavens. It was branded in space and emanated an indescribable imposing aura. The mighty figure was expressionless like a supreme god that was indifferent towards this horrifying battle and had no intention of interfering. The battle continued. Space collapsed, the heavens collapsed, and the earth split apart. Boundless energy swept through the heavens and the earth, and in the end, it obliterated Du Xiaofu's consciousness. When Du Xiaofu recovered his consciousness once more, he'd arrived at another battlefield. Kill, kill, kill. Shouts of battle shook the heavens as countless formidable beings danced about in the sky. They formed a dense mass as they fought intensely. A rain of blood gurgled down and dyed the entire earth scarlet red. Du Xiaofu saw numerous enormous dragons with towering scales lay across the sky, and they roared ferociously while twisting their bodies, causing space to collapse. There were also countless blazing phoenixes that spread their wings and incinerated the sky, and when the flames descended, they incinerated the earth into boundless lava. In these 2 camps, there were countless scaled beings and flying beasts following them as they fought together. Roar! In the mountains and forests, tiger roars and ape cries could be heard as they swept through the wilderness, roaring through heaven and earth and splitting mountains and rivers. These beasts were led by majestic and dignified Kirins as they fought fiercely against the dragons and phoenixes. Dragons, phoenixes, Kirins. Could this be? Du Xiaofu was horrified. This is the Dragon Phoenix Tribulation. At the same time, he discovered that the mighty figure was also present this time, and he was still watching this battle calmly. A great battle erupted, and the massive dragon's body was torn apart. Dragon blood poured out like a river, dyeing the sky red. The phoenix's feathers withered, and its flames were extinguished as it fell from the sky. However, under the joint forces of these 2 races, the beasts suffered the most casualties. When the last Kirin fell, the beasts all let out mournful cries, but they were ultimately annihilated by the countless scaled beings and flying beasts. In this battle, the dragons were injured, the phoenixes were bathed in blood, and the Kirans were exterminated. Du Xiaofu had already heard of this outcome from countless people. However, seeing the tragic scene with his own eyes, he was still shocked beyond words. Right at this moment, Du Xiaofu saw that the mighty figure, who seemed to be as tall as heaven and earth and had been staying out of this all along, moved. He raised his palm, which was as big as heaven and earth, and beckoned lightly. In the messy battlefield, a round yellow stone flew out and was held in his hand. Chapter 2476. The round yellow stone was not big. Compared to the palm of the mighty figure, it was like a boulder compared to Mount Tai. However, it emitted a hazy glow on the surface with a strong life aura fluctuating within. How can there be no Qilins in this world? There was no sound. But Du Xiaofu seemed to hear the majestic figure sigh, bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind. That's the Qilin egg. Du Xiaofu was extremely familiar with that yellow stone. It was the one he obtained from Tianhuang mainland that entered Ouyang Shuang's body and eventually hatched into Du Xiaolin. Legend had it that the Qilin race had long gone extinct in the Dragon Phoenix tribulation, which meant that it was impossible for another Qilin to appear in this world. However, no one expected that a small Qilin would appear in the gigantic tomb in the depths of the heaven burial dead ground, shocking countless living beings present at that time. It was only at this moment that Du Xiaofu understood that the mighty figure could not bear to see no more Qilins in this world, and thus protected the last bloodline of the Qilin race. Du Xiaofu felt a sense of familiarity when he looked at that figure, but he could not pinpoint why. That person's figure was like a painting that was imprinted in the void. Du Xiaofu could sense that this person was incomparably powerful, as though he was above all living beings, and the might he exuded was as vast as the world. However, such a powerful person did not do anything when countless people were being slaughtered by the demonic sect. Instead, he just stood by and watched. How cold and indifferent. Huff, huff. Just as Du Xiaofu was pondering, a white light suddenly appeared before his eyes and dazzled him. By the time he regained his vision, space had already rotated, and he appeared in another place. It was a continuous mountain range with two lone peaks that stood tall like a dragon raising its head and looking as though it could collapse at any moment. Its aura was terrifying. The lone peak was surrounded by water on both sides, and there was a path that was dozens of feet wide in the middle that led into the mountain range. At the end of the path was a majestic and vast building complex that was lined up in rows and exuded a sacred aura. Among the buildings, there were countless powerful auras. There were countless cultivators above the Saint Realm. On a flat cliff on the left side of the mountain, there were 4 ancient characters carved in flamboyant calligraphy. Each character was 30 meters in size and could be seen from afar. Looking at the 4 words, Du Xiaofu's blood began to boil furiously. With a hoarse voice, he recited, Tianwu Academy. Du Xiaofu's eyes were moist as he thought back to those days when he was young and inexperienced. There were also many people, the Grand Elder of Green Island, the Elder of Zhou, the Grand Elder. Back then, the Academy had suffered a great calamity. Everyone had risked their lives to resist the strong enemy, but most of them had still sacrificed their lives for the Academy and were buried in the ruins. Although the Academy was rebuilt later on, there were so many lives that they would never see again. Boom, 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 boom. Just as Du Xiaofu was wallowing in his sorrow, war drums sounded and a majestic worship rose into the sky from Tianwu Academy. Kill. Eradicate the devil religion. Kill. Powerful figures charged into the sky one after another, and the emblem on their robes glowed brightly. Wielding a sword in their hands, they roared and charged forward. Following the departure of the warship, they disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. They are the ancestors of our Tianwu Academy. Du Xiaofu followed behind the warship and soared into the sky. Back then, in the heavenly devil battlefield, the sight of the ancestors of Tianwu Academy dying in battle was still fresh in his mind. Now that he was in the supreme ancient realm, Du Xiaofu wanted to take a look. However, when he appeared from the spatial tear once more, the scene before him was different. The scenery changed once more, and he was in another battlefield. The bodies of demonic gods were as majestic as mountains, and demonic aura billowed around them. Wherever they went, death would follow. The members of the devil religion were slaughtering mercilessly. There were 9 demon emperors, and 5 of them were stronger than the 9 demon emperors. Wherever they went, countless lives would be reaped. Du Xiaofu could hear their conversation, and he knew that the 5 of them were known as the 5 Elements Demon Emperors. The masters of the 3,000 worlds fought fiercely with the dragon god and the demon god, but their strength seemed to be greatly suppressed in this world. They couldn't kill or even suppress the demon god. Countless living beings raised their blades and fought against the devil religion. Blood was spilled everywhere. Other than the 9 demon emperors, Du Xiaofu saw many other familiar figures. There was Fuibai, the old lunatic, the heavenly wood divine tree, the dragons, the phoenixes, the 9 great clans, and so on. Blood was gushing, and the earth was shaking. The entire world was filled with corpses, and blood flowed like rivers. The heavens wept in sorrow, and the living beings were in a terrible situation. Everywhere in the world was hell. Du Xiaofu was an outsider, and he just watched quietly. He wanted to rush over to help, but the attacks he sent out didn't seem to exist at all. The butcher's blade of the devil religion slashed across his body, but it was as if he was slashing the air. He wasn't injured at all. He was just a bystander who came from the lower reaches of the river of time. He could see everyone, but no one could see his existence. Du Xiaofu realized that on almost every huge battlefield, there would be the majestic figure imprinted in the void. Just like him, he was quietly watching these tragic battles. The difference was that Du Xiaofu couldn't make a move, but that majestic figure had a high and mighty attitude and was incomparably cold. The only difference was that on the battlefield of the Dragon Phoenix Calamity, he had once obtained a Qilin egg. Du Xiaofu had seen it before. The masters of the 3,000 worlds and the dragon god had looked for that majestic figure many times, wanting him to deal with the demon god, but they were all rejected by that person. Whoosh! Another white light flashed, and Du Xiaofu appeared in another place. He was already used to this. At the beginning, in order to catch up to that strange black cloud, he tore through space and appeared on the battlefield where the masters of the 3,000 worlds and the dragon god were fighting against the demon god. Then, he witnessed the Dragon Phoenix Calamity and the destruction of the Qilin race. Then, he went to Tianwu Academy and countless other battlefields. The scenes changed one after another, and bloody scenes appeared before his eyes. Du Xiaofu was there and witnessed it with his own eyes. After a few twists and turns, Du Xiaofu saw too many tragic scenes. All the living beings in the world were involved, and no one could stay out of it. Passing through many battlefields, while the masters of the 3,000 worlds and the dragon god chased after the demon god, they didn't give up on persuading that majestic figure to join forces and suppress the demon god. On this day, Du Xiaofu finally saw that majestic figure nod his head in agreement. His body was still like a painting, imprinted in the void. His face was still calm, but he stretched out a palm that covered the entire sky and slapped down on the demon god. In an instant, the aura of gods and demons rolled down, overturning the world and sinking the sun and moon. When the masters of the 3,000 worlds and the dragon god saw this, they unleashed their full strength. The 3 of them joined forces and suppressed the demon god. Chapter 2477. The demon god roared angrily at the majestic figure. Since you've merged with this world, you're the heavenly Tao of this world. You should be fair and selfless. Are you going to interfere? I'm the heavenly Tao, fair and selfless, the majestic figure said, but he did not stop moving. The huge palm slowly slapped down, and a loud voice came from his mouth, echoing in every corner of this world. The heavenly Tao is heartless. I shouldn't interfere in the affairs of all living beings, but your devil religion has caused endless slaughter in my world. I can't turn a blind eye. I don't want this heartless body of the heavenly Tao. I'm the heavenly Tao. I should protect all living beings. Perhaps this is the true heavenly Tao. Then today, I'll do what the heavenly Tao should do. So what if I turn into ashes? suppress. The huge palm fell, and terrifying lightning fluctuated, as if it wanted to split the entire world. Terrifying heavenly might permeated the air, engulfing the entire boundless world. The blue sky drooped down, the thick earth trembled, and the endless power of heaven and earth rose up, converging under this palm, condensing into a blazing thunderbolt. Apart from the master of 3,000 worlds and the dragon god, all living beings fell from the void in an instant, prostrating on the ground and kneeling under the heavenly might. Even Du Xiaofu, who came from the lower reaches of time, could not resist the pressure of the heavenly Tao at all. He knelt down to the majestic figure of the heavenly Tao. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's heart was in turmoil, and he could not calm down. Heavenly Tao. It was actually the heavenly Tao. Du Xiaofu had never known what the heavenly Tao was. However, he knew that legalism, which had a deep grudge with him, had the saying the heavenly Tao is far, but the human Tao is far. In his understanding, the heavenly Tao was a kind of connection between heaven and man. It was an extremely illusory existence, related to the invisible rules and order of a world. It was not something that could be reached by human strength. What he saw today completely overturned his understanding. That imposing figure was actually the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. From his words, Du Xiaofu finally understood why he was able to watch countless living beings suffer a calamity without doing anything. Under the repeated persuasions of the master of 3,000 worlds and the dragon god, he had never taken action, because he was the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao was heartless. The heavenly Tao is selfless. The heavenly Tao controlled this world, and it was supreme and stood above all living beings. He possessed the greatest strength in this world, yet he couldn't interfere with the matters of all living beings. Otherwise, under the invisible rules, only death awaited him. As the heavenly Tao, I shall protect all living beings. Perhaps this is the true heavenly Tao. I don't want this heartless body of the heavenly Tao. Today, I will do what the heavenly Tao should do. Even if I turn into ashes, so what? The loud voice still echoed in his ears. However, Du Xiaofu knew that the bloody massacre of the demon god had nothing to do with the heavenly Tao. Even if all the living beings in this world were slaughtered by the devil religion, countless living beings would be born again under the cycle of time and display their brilliance again. As for him, he was still the heavenly Tao, still supreme and above all living beings. However, in the end, he did not continue to watch coldly from the sidelines. For the sake of all living beings in this world, he still chose to take action. The thunder roared, the power was vast, and the void was annihilated. The master of 3,000 worlds and the dragon god also attacked together. In the end, the mountain-like body of the demon god was suppressed. Du Xiaofu was still kneeling on the ground, but the heavenly Tao's might was weakening. The pressure on his primordial spirit was also much lighter. He tried to raise his head and saw the imposing figure of the heavenly Tao gradually become somewhat blurry and faint. The high and mighty figure looked at an inconspicuous corner of this world and softly said, "I am the heavenly Tao, but I was unable to bring any benefits to the family that gave birth to me, to my descendants. Since I have given up my heartless body today, then I will do something. Treat it as a little compensation." In the corner of the world that the heavenly Tao was looking at, there was an extremely ordinary family. Boom, boom, boom. Thunder rumbled and fell from the 9 heavens as if it was the end of the world. An indescribable strange fluctuation rippled and rapidly spread out, heading towards the ordinary family. At this moment, the blood of everyone in this family began to boil. Countless lightning bolts entered their bodies, and complex talisman runes were engraved on their bloodlines. But very quickly, the light of these talisman runes faded away, as if nothing had happened. Thunder Martial Vein. That is my Du family's Thunder Martial Vein. Du Xiaofu was shocked to discover that the traces of the talisman runes were exactly the same as the Thunder Martial Vein in his body. Although the people of this small family only felt an instant of abnormality, Du Xiaofu knew that the talisman runes had left an eternal imprint in their bodies. Until one day, many, many years later, he would personally activate it. Du Xiaofu raised his head, and two streams of blood flowed down from the corners of his eyes. Ancestor. Du Xiaofu knelt on the ground and bowed deeply towards the figure in the void. The descendant of the Du family greets the ancestor. How could he not understand that the incarnation of the heavenly Tao was the ancestor of the Du family? It was him who had engraved the thunder martial vein in the bloodlines of the Du family. Du Xiaofu knelt on the ground, sobbing silently. He knew that when the ancestor engraved the Du family's bloodline and martial vein, it was the moment of his death. Back then, Fu Yibai and the others had told him that during the primordial calamity of heaven and earth, there was an invincible sovereign who had surpassed the sage realm with the thunder profound and merged with the heaven and earth. In the final battle between the dragon god and the demon god, the sovereign of the 3,000 worlds stepped forward bravely and was willing to perish, helping the sovereign of the 3,000 worlds and the dragon god to suppress the demon god. At the moment of his death, he had engraved the sovereign martial vein in the bodies of his descendants with an invincible bearing. Then, he perished and turned into 36 bolts of spiritual lightning that scattered in the world. High in the sky, as if sensing Du Xiaofu's kowtow, the imposing figure turned his head and looked at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the imposing figure of the ancestor with teary eyes. The calm and dignified face was no longer expressionless. Instead, there was a faint smile. In this smile, there was relief, relaxation, and a trace of joy. For the sake of the world, he had chosen to suppress the demon god and was willing to endure the obliteration of the invisible rules. High in the sky, the sovereign of the 3,000 worlds and the dragon god bowed at the same time and paid their respects. The figure of the heavenly Tao was disintegrating and dissipating. The figure that filled the entire void exploded into huge thunderbolts that fell from the sky like brilliant fireworks. Chapter 2478. The formless power of the rules crushed down, and the stalwart figure was being obliterated. The smiling face crumbled above the firmament, and his entire body turned into 36 vast thunderbolts, like flowing flames in the sky, whistling and flying to different corners of this world. The entire area shook violently. The 9 heavens fell, the earth was overturned, the river waves roared, and the mountains collapsed. The heavens were crying blood, and the living beings were crying. It was a doomsday-like scene. Countless large rocks flew from the sky and piled up into a mountain. It was tens of thousands of kilometers in size, and it was majestic and majestic. It buried the entire battlefield. The lords of 3,000 worlds and the dragon god took action, and they retreated with countless living beings. They quietly watched as the heavenly Tao's imposing body fell. With the support of the formless power of laws, the spiritual power of the entire world converged toward this place, constantly replenishing the energy of the seal that suppressed the demon god. All the living beings felt a mysterious power suppress them at the same time, and it acted on their physical bodies and primordial spirits at the same time. Their powers were greatly restricted, and there were even signs of them regressing. The lords of 3,000 worlds and the dragon god were no exception. Their powers were suppressed even more terrifyingly in this world. When the dust finally settled, the terrifying pressure retreated like the tide and dissipated between the heavens and the earth. All that was left of this battlefield was an immeasurably large hill. It buried the battlefield and the heavenly Tao. An invisible barrier gradually formed around the battlefield, covering an area of 1,000,000 kilometers. It isolated it from the entire world and became an independent space. Countless living beings witnessed all of this with shock and confusion. There were also living beings who were still within the battlefield, trapped in the invisible barrier. Du Xiaofu knew that this place would eventually become the ancient, desolate continent of the future. The heavenly Tao had fallen, and the demon god and the 5 demon emperors were also suppressed. Countless living beings heaved a long sigh of relief. Meanwhile, Du Xiaofu was still immersed in the grief of his ancestors' death. Eradicate the devil religion. Blood for blood. A living being suddenly shouted, and the battle erupted again. Eradicate the devil religion. Blood for blood. Kill. The creatures roared crazily. Their weapons shone with radiance as they launched an intense counterattack against the devil religion. A long and drawn-out slaughter was carried out. Without the protection of the demon god, the devil religion could no longer contend against all living beings. Du Xiaofu followed the river of time and quietly watched all of this happen. He had a lot of understanding of the situation after that, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. The only thing that made him a little surprised and interested was the birth of the two lives, both of which had a familiar aura. Lei Laozu, Lei Tianhuang. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved as he exclaimed endlessly. When his ancestor died, he turned into 37 thunderbolts. 36 of them condensed into the spiritual thunder of the future. The last one was extremely small, only the size of a finger. It was inconspicuous, but it was indeed a thunderbolt. Du Xiaofu saw that when the 36 huge thunderbolts streaked across the sky, they created a sky full of thunderbolts. One of the thunderbolts had spirituality and quickly developed life and intelligence. Its strength was abnormally strong, and it joined the battle to destroy the devil religion. This thunderbolt was the true body of the Fire Thunder Master. At this moment, Du Xiaofu finally knew why the Fire Thunder Master had been calling himself his ancestor since he first met him. The Fire Thunder Master was derived from thunderbolts and was related to his ancestor. Moreover, he had already developed intelligence. Strictly speaking, he could indeed be considered his ancestor. As for the last extremely small bolt of lightning, it landed near the battlefield and continued to exist endlessly. Du Xiaofu knew that this inconspicuous thunderbolt also developed intelligence many years later and became his disciple. That was Lei Tianhuang. It could also be said that the existence of the Fire Thunder Master and Lei Tianhuang was another kind of continuation of his ancestor's life. The river of time kept flowing faster and faster. Countless scenes kept switching in front of Du Xiaofu's eyes. He saw the 5 elements demon emperor being killed. Countless creatures were thrown into the battlefield to conquer the devil religion. Blood spread. He saw the master of the 3,000 worlds holding 9 purple thunder profound cauldrons and sealing the remaining 4 demon emperors. These 9 places became the Kyushu of the human race in the future. Scenes flashed in front of his eyes quickly. Du Xiaofu's vision couldn't keep up. The scenes became more and more blurred. They became dense black and white lines flowing in front of his eyes. He couldn't see anything clearly. Finally, the scenes changed. Swish! A white light flashed. Du Xiaofu felt a stinging pain in his eyes. He closed his eyes tightly. At this moment, a mysterious force began to madly pour into his mind. Countless scenes appeared. There was the rotation of the universe, the rise and fall of the sun and moon, and the evolution of everything in the world. There was wind, rain, thunder, lightning, water and fire mixing, and the birth of the mighty power of heaven and earth. There were creatures offering sacrifices, devout prayers, and the gathering of a vast amount of wish power. Everything in the mortal world was included in these scenes. Countless scenes were intense and spectacular. They collided and intertwined, and the patterns and rules of everything in the world were engraved. These patterns were branded in Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. They contained some kind of indescribable magical power. They seemed to explain the cycle of heaven and earth, and they interpreted all the rules and orders in the world. They were far beyond the level of profound meanings. The fluctuations of the power of laws were incomparably strange. They fluctuated with a mysterious and vast aura, making people want to touch them and explore them. Du Xiaofu had a feeling that if he could grasp these rules and orders, he would be able to pry into the trajectory of everything in the world. He would be able to pry into the principles of heaven and earth. Then, he would be able to integrate this world into his body and grasp the supreme power of this world. He would be able to look down on everything in the world. He tried to capture and comprehend these rules, but no matter what, he could not grasp these rules. He could not even pry into the slightest trace of them. After many attempts, Du Xiaofu could only helplessly give up in the end. But he knew that these patterns of laws had been branded in his primordial spirit. It was just that with his current cultivation, he was far from being able to pry into them. When the patterns of laws in his mind stopped evolving and Du Xiaofu opened his eyes again, He was in a pitch-black space of nothingness. He could not see the existence of anything. There was nothing. Du Xiaofu withdrew his thoughts and began to explore this space. This is the tomb. Du Xiaofu recognized that this was the place where he had been pulled into the whirlpool of the Thunder Sea. He had gone to the upper reaches of time and space to witness the various calamities of the Archean Age. However, at this time, the boundless Thunder Sea that had filled every corner of this space was gone. His drunkard father and sister had also disappeared. He did not know if they were safe. Swoosh! The thunder martial vein rushed out and the space was torn apart. Du Xiaofu's figure flashed and entered. Chapter 2479. Outside the tomb, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Du Xiaoba, and Du Xiaolin were waiting. Earlier, when they saw Du Xiaofu being swallowed by the black hole, they were worried that something would happen to him. Huff! On this day, lightning flashed above the tomb, and a purple-robed figure flew out from it. Xiaofu! Brother! Uncle Xiaofu! When Du Tingxian and the other three saw Du Xiaofu come out, they quickly surrounded him. Dad! The little Qilin spread its 4 hooves and jumped into Du Xiaofu's embrace. Its little head intimately rubbed against his face. Du Xiaofu squinted his eyes and smiled happily. He was worried that his drunkard father and the other 3 would encounter some trouble in the Sea of Lightning Vortex. Now that he saw that they were fine, Du Xiaofu was relieved. At the same time, Du Tingxian and the other 3 were relieved. Dad, why did you only come out now? Me, Grandpa, Aunt, and Brother Xiaoba have been waiting for you for 3 months. Du Xiaolin blinked his big eyes and said to Du Xiaofu in a childish voice. Du Xiaofu was stunned. He had traveled through the river of time to the ancient era and was delayed for more than 3 months. It's good that you're fine. Du Tingxian walked forward and patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder and said with a smile, And I've made you guys worry. Du Xiaofu felt very ashamed. All these years, his actions had always caused his loved ones to be worried and fearful. Boom, boom, boom. On the other side, after Du Xiaofu appeared, the huge tomb suddenly began to tremble violently, and the muffled rumbling continued. Du Xiaofu looked back with a complicated gaze. He had witnessed far too many things during his trip to the primordial era. The great calamity caused by the devil religion was so bloody that it was shocking. The peerless means of the Lord of 3,000 worlds and the dragon god were also unpredictable. In the end, the ancestor, who was the embodiment of the heavenly Tao, took action to suppress the demonic god. This made him feel even more conflicted. Is this place going to be destroyed? Du Xiaofu saw that the huge tomb was trembling and sinking. Smoke and dust were flying everywhere. The scene was not grand, but Du Xiaofu's heart was filled with indescribable grief. He knew that the heavenly Tao and his ancestors were buried there. It was exactly the same as the rumors in the world. It was a true tomb of the heavenly Tao. In order to save the world and put an end to the devil religion slaughter, the ancestor gave up his emotionless body and was willing to be obliterated by the invisible rules. He interfered with the affairs of the common people and died. Before he died, he even engraved the thunder martial vein in the bodies of the Du family members, giving the ordinary descendants of the Du family the strongest martial vein in the world. Furthermore, after Du Xiaofu exited the river of time, the law imprint engraved in his mind must have been set up by the ancestor. The one buried here is the ancestor of my Du family. Du Xiaofu's gaze was faint. He did not hide anything from Du Tingxian and the others. In a few words, he picked out the main points of what he had seen in the river of time and explained it in a concise and comprehensive manner. After Du Tingxian and Du Xiaojing heard this, their eyes trembled and they had even more complicated feelings. The tomb was gradually sinking. The body that was originally more majestic than a mountain was becoming smaller and smaller. The scene of the ancestors' destruction was still in front of them. Du Xiaofu knew that this tomb of the heavenly Tao was left by the ancestor for the little Qilin and the descendants of the Du family. Now that the little Qilin had been born, the others had also obtained great benefits. This tomb had also completed its mission and was about to disappear. Xiaoba, Xiaolin, come, kowtow to the ancestor. Du Xiaofu pulled Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaolin over. then knelt on the ground and bowed towards the tomb that was shrouded in smoke and dust. The descendants of the Du family respectfully send off the ancestor. Du Tingxian and Du Xiaojing also knelt down at the same time, respectfully bowing to the tomb. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of tremors reverberated and slowly weakened until it abruptly stopped at a certain moment, leaving only dust dancing in the sky. Du Xiaofu and the others raised their heads. In front of them was a vast and empty plain that stretched as far as the eye could see. The tomb of the heavenly Tao had completely disappeared. On the plain, there was a barren land without any signs of life. At this moment, ripples spread out in the space, bringing with them a strange fluctuation that surged out in all directions. Then, the few of them felt the profound qi in their bodies growing and growing. The suppressive force is weakening again. Du Xiaofu saw in the river of time that after the ancestors' fall, the world was greatly suppressed, so much so that no one in the future could break through to the saint realm. It was only when the eternal tomb that suppressed the demon god opened that the suppressive force dissipated by more than half, and it became possible to break through to the saint realm. Now, with the disappearance of the tomb of the heavenly Tao, the suppressive force in this world was about to be completely removed. In the future, there would be more living beings breaking through to the saint realm. Many people would even be able to reach the legendary heavenly saint realm. The situation in the world would inevitably change greatly because of this. At this moment, the other places in the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds were in an uproar. Countless creatures raised their heads to look at the sky, where ripples were rippling like water. These ripples rippled out layer by layer, twisting and changing, and finally all disappeared. There seemed to be some obstruction in the surrounding space that was completely removed at this moment. The air became fresher, and even breathing became easier, making one's body feel lighter. A large amount of spiritual qi surged out, filling every inch of space. The barrier outside this space is disappearing. The ancient, desolate, ominous grounds is about to be completely opened and connected to the outside world. Legend has it that this world was originally extremely vast, but it's finally going to be connected. My Xin Qi is strengthening. A breakthrough, a breakthrough. I'm about to break through. Many creatures howled. Some creatures who were at the bottleneck of their realm immediately felt that they were about to break through. Everyone realized that once the suppressive force dissipated and the space barrier was removed, the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds would be completely connected to the outside world. At that time, this world would truly be the true appearance of this world. Sigh, I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse for the human race. The outside world is really looking forward to it. Some people sighed with worry, afraid that all of this would bring unexpected changes to their race. Some people were excited and looked forward to it, wanting to explore the vast and boundless world to broaden their horizons and increase their strength. Let's go. In front of the vast plains, Du Xiaofu took one last look at the place where the tomb had disappeared, and then said to Du Tingxian and the others. The demon god had broken out of the seal and was in the process of recovery. No matter how the world changed, Du Xiaofu had to do his best to improve his cultivation. Only in this way could he have more strength to protect himself and his loved ones in the upcoming calamity. After Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he turned around and left. Du Tingxian and the others did not delay any longer. At the same time, they tore open the space and left this area. Chapter 2480. The Demon King has come out. Qi-La, inside the heaven burial wasteland, above an ancient forest, a dark spatial rift suddenly appeared. A purple-robed youth walked out from within, followed by two young figures. This one adult and two children were Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoba, and Du Xiaolin, who had left the tomb of heavenly Tao not long ago. After leaving the tomb of heavenly Tao, Du Xiaofu separated from his drunkard father and sister. There were indeed many opportunities inside the heaven burial wasteland. Only by moving separately could they obtain more treasures and benefits, and thus increase the overall strength of the desolate country. But Du Xiaofu was a little worried about Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaolin, these two little fellows, and did not dare to let them act on their own. The suppression of heaven and earth had disappeared, and recently, many creatures had made significant breakthroughs. Du Xiaofu was afraid that they would provoke some old monsters and cause some unmanageable situation. That would not be a joke. Therefore, he could only keep them by his side and look after them. However, Du Xiaofu's actions attracted strong dissatisfaction and silent protest from the two little fellows. These two fellows were troublemakers. Now that they were tied up by Du Xiaofu's side, they felt that they could not use their fists and feet at all, and were very unhappy. Xiaolin, don't be unhappy. Look at that mouth of yours, it's almost pouting to the sky. Du Xiaofu said to the unhappy Du Xiaolin with a smile on his face. He then turned to look at the seemingly simple and honest Du Xiaoba and threatened, Xiaoba, if you dare to urge Xiaolin to run away again, be careful that I don't slap your butt into 108 pieces. Hearing this, Du Xiaoba was so frightened that he hurriedly dodged, covering his butt with both hands, and looked at Du Xiaofu cautiously with his big eyes. It could be said that other than his master, Jialo Jueyu, this uncle in front of him made him feel the most afraid. Along the way, he had incited the little Qilin to run away with him, wanting to act alone. But every time, he was caught red-handed by Uncle Xiaofu, and his head was hit many times. Father, I'm going to tell Mother that you bullied me. The little Qilin pouted its little mouth and drooped its eyelids, looking extremely aggrieved. Du Xiaofu had a headache. He could see that this little Qilin had inherited some of Ouyang Shuang's tomboy temperament. While it was arrogant and overbearing, it was also a little unreasonable. The affectionate attitude and the image of an obedient baby were based on the fact that the little fellow was in a good mood. Hee. Du Xiaofu laughed dryly and patted the little Qilin's head. Then, his gaze suddenly shifted to a place 100 miles away. He smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, let's go. Father will bring you to roast meat. Faint lightning flashed in his eyes. He could sense that there were some familiar figures in that place. As soon as he heard Du Xiaofu say the word roast meat, Du Xiaoba immediately became spirited. His eyes emitted a green light, and saliva dripped from his mouth. He couldn't wipe it in time. Du Xiaolin dodged Du Xiaofu's palm, but saw Du Xiaoba wiping the saliva from the corner of his mouth. He couldn't help but say in a childish voice, Brother Xiaoba, where's your backbone? Just a little roast meat made you yield? Du Xiaoba sucked in his mouth and didn't care about Du Xiaolin's angry gaze at all. He fiercely nodded his little head. His meaning was extremely obvious. What was backbone? As long as he could eat roast meat, he was willing to compromise everything. That's because you haven't eaten the meat that your father personally roasted, Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Then, he took the two little fellows and flew away together. This dense forest was extremely large. It could be thousands of miles in radius. Ancient trees were dense, and the canopy was like an umbrella. The shadows of the trees in the forest swayed, emitting the smell of rotting leaves. At a glance, one could see trees that were 70 to 80 feet thick rising into the sky. Their trunks were hundreds of feet tall, and they were filled with a sense of simplicity and tranquility. At this moment, this tranquil atmosphere was broken by the confrontation between the two parties. Around the two parties, the area within 100 miles was empty. Countless trees had disappeared, turning into dust that scattered in all directions. On the outer side, there were dozens of figures. All of them had strange faces. Their faces were full of scales, and there were even some with bumps on their foreheads. At a glance, one could tell that they were transformed from beasts. Humans, how dare you trespass into the territory of our beast alliance? Hand over all the treasures on you, and then cripple your own cultivation. Then, we can spare your lives today. Among the beast race experts, there was an old man covered in flames. He stared aggressively at the young men and women who were surrounded and said gloomily, the treasures are on us. Come and get them yourself if you can. On the other side of the group of young men and women, there was a handsome young man in a black robe. His voice was gentle, but there was a hint of fierceness in it. The aura on his body fluctuated faintly, and there was a hint of murderous intent. Beside this young man, there were a few other people. Some of them had wounds and bloodstains on their bodies. However, at this moment, they all had weapons in their hands. Their expressions were unruly and fearless. A beautiful woman wearing a bright red palace robe that covered half of her breasts looked at the flaming old man and said indifferently, "We still have important matters to attend to. Don't waste your breath on them." After saying that, the beautiful woman attacked first. She raised her hand and shot out a cold light. It drew a horrifying spatial crack in the air and attacked the flaming old man. Kill. The others didn't say anything else. Their Qian-Chi exploded, and a magnificent energy quickly spread out in this dense forest. Hee. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Go, kill all the men, but leave the women alive. Among the dozens of people on the periphery, a middle-aged man with pitch-black scales on his forehead licked his lips and laughed strangely. He looked at the group of people besieged and saw a few graceful women. His eyes shone with a lustful light. As soon as the man finished speaking, he turned into a black snake that was hundreds of feet long. He stood upright and opened his mouth to spit out a bone-chilling light. It was as if he wanted to freeze the space and shatter it. The two sides fought fiercely. Light shone in all directions, and majestic energy raged. Pieces of space were shattered one after another. The flaming old man threw out a palm. Flames burned out and collided with the long sword in the hand of a young man. Dense runes swept out, and 100-foot crater was instantly formed on the ground. The soil was scorched black and sizzled with fire. The flaming old man was pushed back. Looking at the young man opposite him, his eyes flickered. He sighed inwardly. These people are not simple. They are so young, but they have the cultivation of the Saint Realm. Although the beast race had the advantage in numbers, there were only 8 people above the Saint Realm. It was about the same as the other party. They couldn't take them down in a short time. You even dare to touch my friends. Are you tired of living? Just as the two sides were in the midst of a fierce battle, a leisurely voice rang out and entered everyone's ears. Chapter 2481. Soon after, everyone saw a young man in a purple robe walk out of the void. Behind him were 2 small figures, one human and one beast. Seeing these 3 people appear, the men and women who were besieged immediately showed joy. On the other hand, some of the experts from the beast race were stunned. Then, their bodies trembled violently. He's the Demon King. Demon King? Which Demon King? Could it be the Demon King Du Xiaofu? That's right. I saw him in the depths of the sky burial wasteland. Yes, the little beast beside him should be the little Qilin that was born in the sky burial wasteland. It calls the Demon King father. The dozens of experts from the beast race confirmed the identity of the purple-robed young man after a few words of discussion. Their guess was very accurate. The purple-robed young man and the one human and one beast behind him were Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoba, and Du Xiaolin. Run. The Demon King is here. Run. The experts from the beast race were frightened. How could they still care about the young men and women besieging them? They all ran away. Didn't they hear the Demon King say that they were his friends? The Demon King was notorious. A few months ago, he had stirred up trouble in the Beast Alliance. Then, he went to the human race's sacred palace and caused a storm in the city. In the sky burial wasteland, he even fought with the 8 Desolation Demon Dragon Clan's Dragon Desolation Ancestor and other perfect saint stage experts. His ferocious name had already spread throughout the ancient Desolation Wasteland. Everyone knew about him. Xiaoba, Xiaolin, grab whatever you want to eat. Du Xiaofu said to Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaolin. With the strength of these 2 little guys, it should be easy for them to deal with this group of people from the beast race. Du Xiaoba swallowed a mouthful of saliva as his eyes lit up. His well-built body rushed out first. At the same time, he waved his small hand at Du Xiaolin and shouted, "Little brother Xiaolin, quickly attack. Don't let a single one escape." Those beast race powerhouses were all delicious ingredients in his eyes. How could he let them go so easily? That big black snake is the worst. I want to eat it. Du Xiaolin howled and flew over as well. He raised his little claw and scattered a bolt of lightning that swept towards the 300-meter-long snake. In the process of rushing here, Du Xiaoba had brainwashed him. He patted his chest and told Du Xiaolin, "Your father's barbecue skills, once you eat it, I guarantee that you will never forget it." When Du Xiaolin saw how confident he was, he believed him in the end. Thus, he directly joined the ranks of the hunters. Ignoring the Beast Alliance experts, Du Xiaofu looked at the few young men and women with a smile on his face. These familiar faces were General, Ghostchild, Gu Xinyan, Wu Kei, Gua Xiaofeng, Tang Wu, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and the others. Seeing Du Xiaofu, these people smiled happily and went up to greet him. I didn't expect all of you to come. Du Xiaofu could feel the aura of the Saint Realm fluctuating from these people. He couldn't help but be surprised, but he wasn't too surprised. They had entered the space of the God Realm and should have obtained some good benefits. Moreover, the suppression of this world had been completely removed. For many of the creatures with outstanding talents, breaking through to the Saint Realm was no longer a difficult task. Among them, Gu Xinyan, who was wearing a red palace robe, walked out. Her beautiful eyes stared at Du Xiaofu, who had suddenly appeared. Her red lips parted slightly as she said, "We all had a breakthrough in the space of the God Realm, so we came here to continue our training. Sure too, Mu Ruabai, and the others have also come out of seclusion and came here to look for opportunities." General walked up to Du Xiaofu and said, "Oh?" Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and then nodded. Presumably, these people's strength had improved tremendously. This was what he was happy to see. General continued, "Your second brother is here as well. We heard some news that he's in trouble." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and couldn't help but ask anxiously, "Where is my second brother now? What kind of trouble has he encountered?" General smiled bitterly and shook his head. He said to Du Xiaofu, "We're not too sure about his exact location. We only heard that he had obtained some great benefits from a relic in the Beast Alliance's territory. He was being chased and surrounded by many experts of the older generation. We were about to rush over to help, but we didn't expect to be intercepted here. If you hadn't come in time, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to get away." Du Xiaofu's eyes darkened, and a murderous intent burst forth. Just as they were talking, they saw Du Xiaolin flying back from afar, dragging a pitch-black snake. The black snake scales had exploded. It was on the verge of death in Du Xiaolin's arms. Du Xiaoba, on the other hand, was even more domineering. With a wave of his hand, a large amount of light gushed out, and a ferocious aura filled the air. Like herding ducks, he drove dozens of beast race experts towards Du Xiaofu. The dozens of experts of the Beast Clan were all injured. They were all badly beaten. Among them, nearly 10 of the Holy Beast Realm experts were so aggrieved that they wanted to die. They were actually beaten up by the two little guys to the point that they couldn't fight back and were all captured. "Uncle Xiaofu, the food is back. Which one shall we eat first?" Du Xiaoba shouted excitedly. "This snake is the worst. Let's roast it first." Du Xiaolin threw the snake in his arms. The snake's body, which was 100 feet long, directly smashed a large hole in the ground. With a rumble, smoke and dust rose everywhere. General, Ghostchild, Gu Xinyan, and the others saw this scene and opened their mouths wide in shock. A bitter smile appeared on their faces. They had seen Du Xiaoba before. He was already extremely abnormal. At such a young age, he had already left them behind in terms of strength. Now that they saw him again, he was already so terrifying. Moreover, that little Qilin was so small, but it was even more tyrannical than Du Xiaoba. How could they, the so-called proud sons of heaven, live? After hearing Du Xiaoba's words, the experts of the Beast Clan were really disheartened. They had long known of the Demon King's fierce reputation. Many experts of the Beast Alliance had been slaughtered and roasted alive by this Demon King and sent into his stomach. Who would have thought that it would be their turn today? They shouldn't have had any ideas about those young people. Father has important things to do now. We'll talk about the roast later, Du Xiaofu said to Du Xiaolin. Then, he turned to look at the experts of the Beast Clan. His eyes flickered with a cold light. "I want to know the news of a person. As long as you can provide this information, I'll give you a chance to live." After hearing that his second brother, Du Yunlong, was in trouble, Du Xiaofu no longer had the mood to eat roast meat. He immediately asked General and the others to come forward and tell the experts of the Beast Clan about Du Yunlong. After hearing this, the old man with flames all over his body said respectfully to Du Xiaofu, "Rock Emperor, This old man knows a little. This young man named Du Yunlong obtained an incredible opportunity and was brought to the Beast Alliance by the Gulen Heavenly Condor clan. I heard that there were some humans following him. These humans came from the outside world and seemed to be some legalism or something like that. Gulen Heavenly Condor clan. Legalism. Famed. Du Xiaofu's eyes were burning with anger. It seems that I haven't appeared for a few months. These people have lived a good life for too long and have forgotten the lessons of the past. Chapter 2482. The coldness in Du Xiaofu's words made the group of beast race experts shudder. Their hearts palpitated for no reason. They had also heard that the Demon King's family had remained in the tomb after the incident at the Heaven Burial Wasteland. They had not appeared in the outside world for many months. Now that they had appeared, it seemed like they were going to stir up trouble again. The Beast Alliance was probably going to be in trouble again. The coldness in Du Xiaofu's eyes slowly receded. He asked the Flaming Elder, "What are all of you doing here?" The Flaming Elder's eyes flickered. He was a little hesitant. Du Xiaofu had only asked casually. However, seeing the Elder's hesitation, it seemed like there really was something unusual. Du Xiaofu immediately acknowledged him. A powerful aura surged out from his soul and pressed down on the Flaming Elder. Did something happen in the Beast Alliance? He sensed that something was amiss. These people from the Beast Alliance were acting strangely. They seemed to be deliberately stopping the humans. The Flaming Elder's body trembled. Sweat rolled down his forehead. He did not dare to hide anything. He bowed and said, 2 days ago, the ancestor of the Bai Fong clan passed away. The other clans are discussing the election of a new alliance leader. We have been ordered to patrol the area to prevent the humans from launching a sneak attack. The ancestor of the Bai Fong clan passed away? Du Xiaofu stared blankly as a wave of sadness rose in his heart. He couldn't believe it. The ancestor of the Bai Fong clan was the old lady who had helped him before. She was also Du Xiaoqing's sister. Du Xiaofu remembered that he had not seen her since she had fought with the ancient emperor of the human race in the Divine Temple. However, he did not expect to hear such heavy news after coming out of the tomb of the Heavenly Tao. I'm afraid the Beast Alliance will not be peaceful in the near future. Du Xiaofu sighed. The Beast Alliance and the humans had been at loggerheads for many years. Now that the ancestor of the Bai Fong clan had passed away, the entire Beast Alliance would become unstable. It was no wonder that the Beast Alliance would set up defenses outside. If the humans launched a sneak attack at this time, it would definitely lead to a bad outcome. Let's go. Du Xiaofu did not ask any more questions. He waved his sleeve and a golden light. It enveloped General, Ghost Child, Gu Xinyan, and the others. Then he spread his golden wings Lin Suyu and Gu. Du Xiaoba looked at the Beast Alliance. Lair of Du Xiaofu's on Earth. Xiaofu. The black snake is snakes is black snakes is black snake. Xiaofu was. Xiaofu, Xiaofu, is. And Ofu. The group of Beast Alliance experts was dumbfounded. They looked at the scene in a daze. Although they were afraid, they heaved a sigh of relief and rejoiced. No one would have thought that the ferocious Demon King would not make things difficult for them. He left just like that. It was not in line with the legends. Everyone felt that it was unreal. What these people didn't know was that it wasn't that Du Xiaofu's temperament had changed, but that he was worried about the situation of his second brother, Du Yunlong. At the same time, the Bai Fong clan had a special relationship with him. They were the clansmen of his sister, Du Xiaoqing. As the leader of the Beast Alliance, he would be the first to bear the brunt of the ancestor's death. There would definitely be a lot of trouble. Therefore, Du Xiaofu did not want to waste too much time. To him, nothing was more important than the safety of his family. The undulating mountain range was majestic and majestic. It was shrouded in mist and covered in green pine trees. This was where the Gulen Heavenly Condor clan lived. Clang! A mighty bell sound came from a spacious cave dwelling in the depths of the mountain range. The cave dwelling's huge stone door was tightly shut. It was covered in a layer of faint light and fluctuated with a terrifying restrictive aura. Clang! Another bell sound came from inside, causing the entire cave dwelling to tremble. The restrictive aura flickered and rippled endlessly, as if it was about to be destroyed by the bell's sound. Inside the cave dwelling, a huge bell that was 100 feet tall stood there. It shone brightly and emitted a terrifying aura. The surrounding air was distorted under the light. The two old men stood in front of the big bell, each of their hands moving, constantly forming complex and mysterious hand seals. Then, they struck out together, hitting the big bell in front of them. Clang! The huge bell vibrated and let out a loud sound. In the dazzling light, a tall young man's figure appeared on the bell. He struggled with his limbs and looked like he was in pain. As the bell sounded, the young man's figure disappeared and concealed himself again. The two elders were overjoyed when they saw this. One of them said excitedly, "He appeared. If we work harder, we can force him out. At that time, the Desolation Holy Bell will belong to our Gulen Heavenly Condor clan." The other elder nodded and said, "Let's continue." The two elders did not waste any more time. They fully unleashed their sage realm cultivation. Hand seals were formed and continuously struck the huge bell. Clang, 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 clang. The young man's face was distorted, and he gritted his teeth. However, there was still a painful howl coming from his mouth. It was obvious that he was in great pain. As the two elders continued to strike, the young man's figure appeared on the bell for longer and longer. After half a day, the young man's figure appeared as if he was branded on the bell. "It's almost done." The two old men were overjoyed, and their hands moved even faster. Clang, 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 clang. The entire cave began to tremble. At this moment, the light on the bell exploded like a sun. The young man's figure became solid and dazzling blood seeped out from his body. It dyed his tall and straight body as terrifying as an azura. It was as if the young man and the bell were originally one, but they were about to be separated at this moment. "Open!" one of the old men shouted. Between his hands, numerous talisman runes shot out, condensing into a terrifying hand seal that struck out with a wave of his hand. However, before his attack could land, the entire cave suddenly exploded with a bang. Large rocks flew in all directions, and the two old men were also attacked by a huge force at the same time. The hand seals they condensed were scattered, turning into runes and dissipating. What's going on? The two elders were furious. They did not expect such an unforeseen event to happen at this critical moment. At this moment, a golden light flashed in front of them. A young man in a purple robe appeared and stared at them angrily. "Gulen Heavenly Condor Clan, do you want to be exterminated?" The purple-robed young man said coldly with one hand behind his back. Chapter 2483. After the purple-robed young man appeared, he raised his hand and pressed it down. The large bell was still standing in its original place, emitting an inextinguishable light, not moving in the slightest. On the bell, the slender figure of the young man was struggling, as if he was enduring a great deal of pain. "Kid, who are you? How dare you trespass into the territory of our Gulen Heavenly Vulture clan?" Looking at the purple-robed young man who appeared in front of them, one of the two old men shouted harshly. He could not help but be angry. They had spent a lot of effort to bring the Desolation Holy Bell back to the clan. They were about to successfully force out the young man who had fused with it, but they were suddenly disturbed and ruined by this purple-robed young man. What was more hateful was that this person was still talking nonsense here, threatening to destroy the Gulen Heavenly Vulture clan. This was intolerable. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as the elder finished speaking, he heard the sound of something flying through the air. Then, he saw more than 10 figures approaching from afar. There were men and women, and all of them were extremely young. There was also a little boy and a small beast. These figures stood behind the purple-robed young man. Their auras fluctuated, and they were all in the Saint realm. This group of people was Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, General, Ghostchild, Gu Xinyan, and the others who had come to save Du Yunlong. Du Xiaofu didn't pay any attention to the old man. Instead, he looked at the huge bell that stood there for a long time. Above the sound of the bell, the young man whose entire body was overflowing with blood and whose face was filled with pain was none other than his second brother, Du Yunlong. Du Xiaofu rolled up his sleeves, and a vast light surged out and covered the bell. A gentle aura slowly entered it. Following his movements, Du Yunlong's figure slowly fell silent and gradually disappeared without a trace, as if he had once again merged with the big bell. Du Xiaofu opened the ancient, desolate space and kept the bell. He had already used his primordial spirit to check on his second brother. The bell was not an ordinary object, and it was fusing with his second brother's body. Once it succeeded, its power would not be inferior to his purple-gold heavenly palace. However, because of the obstruction of the two Gulen heavenly vulture clan's Saint Realm experts, it brought great trouble to his second brother. This caused the fury in Du Xiaofu's heart to rapidly rise. "Kid, you're courting death." The two elders of the Gulen heavenly vulture clan saw this and shouted. Sharp sounds came out of the heavenly vulture clan's mouth, and they both revealed themselves. The Desolation Holy Bell, how could they let this kid take it so easily? The two Gulen heavenly vulture clans, and their sharp claws that heavenly vulture and heavenly vulture. You. Du Xiaofu snorted coldly and immediately displayed the Fuyao heaven shaking wings. The golden wings were dazzling and filled with faint electric arcs. As they flapped slightly, the whole mountain range in the vicinity started to shake. The golden wings of the great Peng swept across, covering half the sky. Golden light filled the air as it slashed down on the talons of the two old men. Chi-chi, the eagle's claws fell. The two old men let out shrill screams and retreated quickly. At this moment, how could they not understand how terrifying this purple-robed young man was? Both of them were at the middle stage of the Holy Beast realm, but when they joined forces, they were actually unable to withstand a single blow from that young man. They couldn't even withstand a single blow and were severely injured. "Brat, who the hell are you? Aren't you afraid that my Gulen Heavenly Condor clan will tear you to shreds?" "The Gulen Heavenly Condor clan must pay the price for harming my kin. If you really want your clan to be annihilated, then come and fight me. I, Du Xiaofu, will accompany you to the end." Du Xiaofu's voice was loud and clear, and it shook the clouds. Every corner of the mountain range could hear it clearly. Countless members of the Gulen Heavenly Condor clan were alarmed, and instantly, discussions broke out everywhere. "Du Xiaofu, it's the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Heavens, why is the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, coming to our Gulen Heavenly Condor clan? Many divine ancestors have gone to the Beast King mountain range. Who else in the clan can stop the Demon King? It's over. It's all over." In front of the destroyed cave, the two old men trembled violently when they heard the three words Du Xiaofu. They were so frightened that their souls almost left their bodies. The Demon King's name had already spread throughout the Beast Alliance, and many divine ancestors were wary of him. Right now, only the two divine ancestors were left in the Gulen Heavenly Condor clan. The rest had gone to the Beast King mountain range, and there was no one who could fight against the Demon King. "Demon? Oh no, Rock Emperor, is there some misunderstanding between us?" One of the old men asked in a trembling voice. "Misunderstanding?" Du Xiaofu sneered. He gently flapped his golden wings and punched out without any fancy moves. "Take this punch of mine, and then tell me about the misunderstanding." This punch did not have any energy fluctuations, and it looked like the most ordinary punch. However, its speed was extremely fast, and it arrived in front of the two old men in the blink of an eye. "Run." The two old men's faces changed drastically, and they did not doubt the power of this punch. Without any hesitation, they flapped their wings and turned around to escape. However, it was too late. With a poof, one of the old men was hit in the back by the punch, and he instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist, which fell to the ground and was blown away by the wind. His primordial spirit body was also swept by the punch, and it was instantly obliterated. He could not be more dead. The other old man was horrified, but he did not delay and took advantage of this opportunity to flee into the distance. "You still want to escape?" Du Xiaofu snorted. The golden wings on his back flapped slightly, and his body disappeared from the spot. He appeared directly behind the old man, and golden light shot out from his palm. He slapped out, and the old man fell from the sky, blood spraying everywhere. Du Xiaofu bent down and grabbed the old man in his hand. Du Xiaofu, the Gulen Heavenly Condor clan will never let you go. The old man clenched his teeth tightly, and bone-chilling hatred jumped out from between his lips and teeth. Then, his face suddenly turned red, and a vast amount of energy condensed on his body. A terrifying aura spread out in all directions. Want to self-destruct? You can't do it in front of me. Du Xiaofu's Xin Qi circulated wildly, and his aura burst out. He pressed his 5 fingers on the old man's head and said, "Soul-searching technique." Boom! The Redbone Horseap's primordial spirit appeared, and its golden body stood upright in the void. It roared in the sky, and it shook the minds of all the living beings in the vicinity. Du Xiaofu had long felt that it was strange that his arrival did not attract the ancestor of the Gulen Heavenly Condor clan. The Gulen Heavenly Condor clan was so big, and there were only 2 holy beasts guarding it. Where did the rest of the holy beasts go? All of this indicated that something was wrong. Chapter 2484. Using the soul-searching technique, Du Xiaofu sent a stream of energy into the old man's primordial spirit to search his memories. A large amount of information flowed into Du Xiaofu's mind. Some of the information he obtained caused Du Xiaofu's expression to slowly become serious, and then it became more and more unsightly. What a distant sky flame phoenix tribe! Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Using the soul-searching technique, he found out about some bad news from the old man. Just a few days ago, Du Xiaoqing's sister, the ancestor of the Bai Feng tribe, died. All the forces of the Beast Alliance went to the Beast King mountain range. The distant Sky Flame Phoenix tribe used this opportunity to rope in a group of experts and force the Bai Feng Divine Bird tribe to give up the Beast King mountain range. At the same time, they seized the position of the Beast Alliance's leader. The Gulen Heavenly Eagle tribe was one of the forces that they roped in. Other than that, there were also people from the outside world who had deep connections with Du Xiaofu, such as legalism, school of martial arts, and so on. Today should be the day they launched their attack. Let's go to the Beast King mountain range. Du Xiaofu crushed the old man's body and left with Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, the general, and the rest. Whether it was because of his relationship with Du Xiaoqing or because of the kindness of the Bai Feng Divine Bird tribe's ancestor, he had to make a trip to the Beast King mountain range. The Beast King mountain range was lush and green. The energy of heaven and earth was shockingly rich. This was a land of treasures. Beep, roar, kill. However, when Du Xiaofu and the rest arrived, they could hear the cries of birds and beasts from afar. The cries of war shook the sky. In the middle of the Beast King mountain range, there was an ancient giant city. It was grand and majestic, exuding a powerful aura. But at this time, on the ancient city walls, stones were peeling off. Countless corpses of birds and beasts were hanging on the city walls. Red blood stains were everywhere. Boom, 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 boom. Countless creatures were fighting fiercely above the ancient city. Vast amounts of energy surged violently. Flames and ice swept across the sky. Sharp sounds of killing tore through the sky. A thick blood mist filled every inch of space. Kill everyone from the Bai Feng Divine Bird, Dark Sky Tiger, and Roaring Sky Demonic Lion clans. Leave no one alive. High up in the sky, Ancestor Feng San of the Sky Flame Phoenix clan traversed the void, his voice shaking the 9 heavens. As for the other clans, those who surrender will be spared. As his wings flapped, terrifying runes began to swirl. Torrential flames began to pour out, burning the void until it collapsed. Feng San, I'm here to kill you. A loud shout was heard as a giant tiger with wings on its back soared into the sky and pounced at Ancestor Feng San. Grandmaster Hu Huang, your opponent is me. A large eagle spread its wings and soared into the sky. Accompanied by the mighty whistling of energy, it blocked the giant tiger's path. The two sides once again engaged in a fierce battle. On the other side, a gigantic dragon twisted its body like a winding mountain ridge. A resounding dragon roar came from its mouth, and a terrifying pressure covered the sky and earth. causing countless demon beasts with weaker cultivations to almost crawl on the ground. This gigantic dragon was the true body of the 8 Desolation demonic dragon clan's ancestor Dragon Desolation, extorting the younger generation. "Why aren't you surrendering?" These words came out of the Dragon Desolation ancestor's mouth. With a swing of his dragon tail, he suppressed everything. A Baifeng divine bird that was fluctuating with a green and red light was unable to dodge in time and was struck by the Dragon Desolation ancestor's tail. In an instant, the light was extinguished, and with a boom, it smashed into the distant mountains. Everything in the mountains was instantly crushed into dust. "Humans, my Baifeng divine bird clan will not rest until you are dead." The Baifeng divine bird clan's patriarch roared angrily as he pounced towards some humans. These humans were from the Legalism, School of Martial Arts, and School of Martial Arts from the outside world. Similar battles were taking place in every corner of the ancient city. With the distant Skyflame Phoenix clan, Gulan Heavenly Eagle clan, and 8 Desolation Demonic Dragon clan as the leaders, they joined forces with the 4-Winged Demonic Snake clan, Dark Lightning Demonic Snake clan, and many other demon beasts to attack. There was also the Legalism, School of Martial Arts, and other human tribes to help from the side. On the other side, there was the Baifeng Divine Bird clan, Dark Heavenly Tiger clan, Howling Heavenly Lion clan, and others. Du Shaoqing and Little Tiger Du were also among them, and they were fighting fiercely with the enemy. However, the Baifeng Divine Bird clan's patriarch had fallen. At this time, supreme experts like the Tiger Desolation Ancestor and the Howling Moon Ancestor were respectively entangled by the Gulan Heavenly Eagle clan's patriarch, Zhang Jie, and the Dragon Desolation Ancestor. It was difficult to determine the victor. Ancestor Feng San took advantage of the opportunity and attacked everywhere, causing the Baifeng Divine Bird clan to be extremely passive and quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. Why struggle on the verge of death? It's time to end all of this. High up in the sky, Ancestor Feng San shouted. The body of the heavenly flame phoenix streaked across the sky, bringing with it a sea of flames that overflowed into the sky. Roar! The Tiger Desolation Ancestor roared. Being caught off guard by Ancestor Feng San's sudden attack, he was grabbed by the Gulan Heavenly Eagle clan's patriarch. A large piece of flesh was torn off his back, and his wings were almost torn apart as he fell from the sky. Go to hell. Ancestor Feng San attacked once again. As the raging flames surged, the air evaporated. Terrifying talisman runes flew out, bringing with them a tyrannical killing power, enveloping the Tiger Desolation Ancestor within. Ancestor. In the distance, Little Tiger Du was furious. His 4 tiger hooves stepped on the air, and dense runes scattered down from his tiger claws, grabbing a 4-winged demon snake in front of him into 2. Then, he turned around and flew towards Ancestor Feng San. Seeing this, the Gulan Heavenly Eagle clan's ancestor Zhang Jie's huge wings swept across, directly sweeping onto Little Tiger Du's body. Buffed! A terrifying wound was cut open on Little Tiger Du's back. It was so deep that one could see the bone. Blood dripped from the wound, and it was a glaring red. Your talent is excellent, but it's a pity that you're still too young. Ancestor Zhang Jie snorted coldly. He opened his sharp claws and grabbed Little Tiger Du's head. In a burst of cold light, the Little Tiger Du's complete Sage Realm cultivation was fully unleashed, causing the dark, heavenly Tiger Du's body to burst apart soundlessly. Little Tiger Du Shaoqing, Elder Hu Si, and Hu Qing's expressions changed drastically when they saw this. At the same time, they abandoned their opponents and rushed towards Little Tiger Du. They wanted to save Little Tiger Du from Ancestor Zhang Jie's hands. However, with their speed, how could they save Little Tiger Du from the hands of Ancestor Zhang Jie? They could only watch as Little Tiger Du's body gradually burst under Ancestor Zhang Jie's eagle claws. Endless despair and helplessness surged in their hearts. Die! Ancestor Zhang Jie activated his cultivation, and terrifying energy erupted from his eagle claws. He wanted to kill Little Tiger Du with one blow. At this moment, a golden light suddenly appeared in front of Ancestor Zhang Jie. Then, a young man in a purple robe appeared eerily. You can't kill Du Xiaofu's men. Chapter 2485. His murderous words echoed throughout the battlefield. As soon as Du Xiaofu showed up and finished his sentence, a thunderbolt as thick as a mountain descended from the clouds. It was swift and ferocious like an immeasurable punishment from the heavens, and it struck progenitor Zhang Jie's head. The heavenly might spread rapidly as the dazzling bolt of lightning zigzagged down from the heavens, as if it was going to tear the void into pieces. Boom! The bolt of lightning exploded as electric arcs wreaked havoc. Terrifying energy swept across the battlefield, forming a thunderstorm that instantly engulfed Du Xiaofu, Little Tiger Du, Patriarch Zhang Jie, Patriarch Feng San, and the others. Although it seemed like a long time, only a short time had passed since Du Xiaofu's appearance until the bolt of lightning struck. Brother, Rock Emperor, Du Xiaoqing, Hu Qing, an elder Hu Luo immediately stopped in their tracks and stared blankly at the scene. Although they were shocked, they were overjoyed. The Dragon Wilderness Patriarch, Howling Moon Patriarch, Patriarch Jiao Huang, and the others stopped fighting as well. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Du Xiaofu's sudden appearance did not cause the slightest ripple in space. This was too strange. Even the perfected Saint Stage powerhouses could not detect any trace of him. Du Xiaofu, it's the Demon King Du Xiaofu. He's here. We're saved. Rock Emperor, kill those rebels. Countless living beings cried out in excitement. At this moment, in the depths of the ancient city, in the main hall of the Baifeng Divine Bird Clan, an old lady walked out of the hall as she muttered to herself, "These black sheep of the Beast Alliance are really troublesome. If I don't get rid of these cancerous tumors, how can I truly leave in peace?" Sigh. The old woman muttered, but suddenly, her soul sensed the movement outside and stopped. Her eyes moved slightly, and a look of surprise flashed across her face. Hee, it turns out that this kid has come. Then, this set of old bones won't join in the fun. I'd better return to my original spot and continue to play dead to watch the show. Haha. The wrinkles on the old woman's face piled up and she chuckled. She turned around and walked to a praying mat at the top of the hall. She sat down cross-legged and closed her eyes. Her aura was withdrawn and even her breathing stopped. There was no sign of life, as if she had died. A phoenix cry rang out from the thunderstorm in the ancient city battlefield. Ancestor Feng San flew out from the thunderstorm. Most of the flames on his body had been extinguished. He was in a sorry state, but he did not suffer much damage. Another figure shot out and stopped in the distance. It was a giant Gulen heavenly condor. It was none other than old Ancestor Cruel War. Compared to Ancestor Feng San, old Ancestor Cruel War was in a more sorry state. There were 2 wounds on his body, and there were still faint arcs of electricity lingering on them. His wings had fallen off, revealing charred flesh that was sizzling with green smoke. Du Xiaofu, you're courting death. Old Ancestor Cruel War gnashed his teeth and shouted. His sharp eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. As the runes that filled the sky surged and scattered in all directions, the thunderstorm also gradually retreated. The figures of Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaohu, and Grandmaster Hu Huang appeared. When they arrived, the little tiger was in danger. Du Xiaofu did not hesitate to use the Fu Yao technique. This move was the profundity of space that he had comprehended from the undying beast soul left behind by the supreme expert of the primordial gold-winged rock clan. It allowed him to directly traverse space without needing to waste time or pass through it. If not for this, he would have been able to appear in front of the little tiger and block old Ancestor Cruel War's attack. Otherwise, with old Ancestor Cruel War's strength, killing the little tiger would be as easy as flipping his hand. This kind of result was something that Du Xiaofu definitely did not want to see. Taking out a pill from his universe bag, Du Xiaofu gave it to Little Tiger and Old Ancestor Tiger Wilderness to consume. Your injuries are not light. Go and recuperate first. Leave this to me. Third young master, you have to be careful. Little Tiger said to Du Xiaofu. Thank you, Rock Emperor. Old Ancestor Tiger Wilderness received the pill very politely and consumed it as well. Then, he retreated to the side. Old Ancestor, I've said it before. You are Little Tiger's elder, so you are like my family. In the future, don't be so polite to me. Du Xiaofu said to old ancestor Tiger Wilderness with a smile. Then, Du Xiaofu turned around and squinted his eyes, facing old ancestor Cruel War. The great rock's golden wings flapped behind his back, and lightning arcs coiled around his body. His tone was extremely cold. It seems that the Gulan Heavenly Condor clan really wants to be exterminated. He had saved his second brother Du Yunlong from the Gulan Heavenly Condor clan. If he had been a step slower, the result would have been unimaginable. How could he not be angry? And you guys, legalism, school of famous, school of vertical and horizontal. Why don't you live well? Why do you have to provoke me time and time again? Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the battlefield, stopping at the legalism, school of famous, school of vertical and horizontal. His eyes were filled with killing intent. These people had too many conflicts with him, and it was difficult to resolve them. Besides, Du Xiaofu also knew that the Baifeng Divine Bird clan, Dark Heavenly Tiger clan, and the legalism and school of famous had a huge grudge against each other. The last time the ancient desolate fearsome grounds opened, coinciding with the birth of Little Qing, they had attacked the Baifeng Divine Bird clan. In the end, Little Qing's parents died, and Du Xiaoqing was taken away by the experts of the Dark Heavenly Tiger clan. Unexpectedly, when the Baifeng Divine Bird clan and the Dark Heavenly Tiger clan did not look for trouble with these people, they colluded with the remote Sky Flame Phoenix clan, 8 Desolation Demon Dragon clan, Gulan Heavenly Condor clan, and others to come to the Beast King mountain range to kill. Du Xiaofu, how dare you spout nonsense here? Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Patriarch Cruel War said. Old thing, why are you shouting so happily? Are you in a hurry to be reincarnated? Du Xiaofu said coldly. His aura was gathering, and his killing intent was rising. If that's the case, I'll take your life today. In terms of cultivation, he was not inferior to Patriarch Cruel War. When he had comprehended the move Fuyao, he had reached the complete Saint Realm and was able to fight the Dragon Wilderness Patriarch outside the Tomb of Heaven Path. In the Tomb of Heaven Path, he had been baptized by the Sea of Lightning and had improved a lot. Therefore, he was not afraid of these old monsters. Kid, don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you have some strength, Patriarch Feng San said in a gloomy voice. He flapped his wings, and torrential flames spread around him, burning the void red. Haha, are you afraid? Du Xiaofu looked at Patriarch Feng San. His golden eyes were filled with killing intent, and his body was shining with golden light. If that's the case, you two old things can come at me together.